Good morning, and thank you for being here. Happy St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2020. As you see that we are following some protocols designed to help your health and well-being. There is a few changes that we have adjusted the agenda to, and we'll speak to that in a moment. But we will go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
So before public comment, Dr. Coons has a few announcements that he would like to share.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As you've noticed and you said, we are practicing social distancing. We also have two new items that we're going to be using today. We have teleconferencing, so we'll have individuals on the conference call line, which in a little bit we'll ask those that are on the conference call line to identify themselves, and then we'll give you space if you would like to speak during public comment. We're also live feeding for the very first time. So those at home or in the office can log in and watch. And I want to thank Darrow and Travis for coming in and putting some time over the weekend and get this place wired up and set up. So thank you very much for assisting in that. We also are going to ask if we can adjust the agenda and take 5.4 first, because we have our local experts. We have our public health nurse, we have our public health director, we have our environmental health director, and we have a superintendent from the schools here. And I believe we have Ed from OES here also. And the board can ask a few questions. We'll make a quick presentation and tell you what the county's been doing. I just for public information, I checked all the websites today of PUD, the hospital, public health, the county, and everybody seems to be on top of this and has information that can be provided to the public. So I just want to thank the community for everyone stepping up and working as a team on this. So I think we'll probably start out with Liz, if that's okay. Oops, I'm sorry.
Well,
Just a question. Could we ask people online to mute their phones?
yes. If you're online, can you please mute your phones for a moment, and then we will have you in a moment state your name for the record, and when we go into public comment, you would state your name again. Darryl?
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, please.
Sorry. Basically, I just wanted people to know that we are live on YouTube. It's the same channel that they've been able to watch the videos on before. In my mind, it is a test environment right now. So we're testing the equipment and the system. We won't have any way to see their comments if they make a comment on the YouTube site. So but if they could tell me if there's problems with audio or video, I would sure like to see that on the comment lines if they're watching this by chance. And I know a couple people are, because I've already gotten texts on it. So, but I think if they want to make a comment, they need to go through that teleconference line. And the number is 800-867-2581, and the code is 623-1382. So if you're watching this live and want to make a comment at the appropriate time, you would have to do it through that conference call line. So, but this, like I say, this is, as far as I'm concerned, still the test mode. And if people have comments about the quality one way or the other, I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bridging the gap with the new frontier there.
And council would like to kind of just let us know why we're allowed to do this right now through the Brown Act.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that the governor has suspended the Brown Act primarily for purposes of allowing teleconferencing to these meetings. Of course, we should stick to it as much as we possibly can, but it has been suspended as of this time by the governor.
Thank you. And I do have a subsequent, I would like to have a motion and a second to put on the agenda. And this is Shelley Nelson, and it's requested agenda for move to discuss or take action to consider an interim personnel policy regarding COVID-19 and find the need to take immediate action to come to the attention of the board subsequent to the agenda being posted. The urgency is that COVID-19 is a current pandemic and human resources need to an approved policy prior to the next board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Gord. So we will add that to our agenda. It'll follow later. So going back to the board packet, we will allow public comment, but first, those that are on the phone, if you could please identify yourself.
If you wish to make a comment.
If you wish to make a comment, that we wanted everybody that was on the phone. We don't have to have everybody, just if you're going to make a comment over the phone. Thank you for clarifying. You might want to unmute your phone in order to identify yourself. Okay, so having...
Hi, this is Alan speaking with Trinity Trail Alliance. I'm just here for the item later in the agenda. If there are any questions, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Rick Tippett, Department of Transportation, here for items and listening.
Thank you. Hearing no more on the phone, we'll open it up to the audience for public comment.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors, and staff. John Brower from Junction City. And I would like to request that the Board of Supervisors provide a letter of support for the Bonta bill, which is SB 1948. It takes the Legislative Analyst Office report to heart and would be eliminating the commercial cannabis cultivation tax and pushing off or reducing the cannabis excise tax for retailers for 3 years, from 15% down to 11%. The LAO report considers this a necessity to launch the new regulated side of our commercial cannabis marketplace in the state. It seems like it's something that Trinity County should definitely be supportive of. So I request a letter of support from the Board of Supervisors for that bill. It's very important. Thank you. Another thing is I'd like to continue encouraging you to rescind or repeal our existing personal grow ordinance that prohibits any sort of retailing. Our current on-storefront retail license type is in violation of it. It's standing in the way of a full brick and mortar retail type here in Trinity County. It seems like that'd be the first step to bring those benefits to our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move it back to the board. We have multiple presentations. Do you want to go into the presentations prior to the item with the public health?
Support discretion, but I would recommend we go to 5.4 and allow those in the audience to get back to work. The presentations first.
Okay, so we're going to jump forward on your agenda to item 5.4. Receive a verbal update from Interim Director of Health and Human Services, Liz Hamilton, and County Administrative Officer Richard Kuhn regarding the coronavirus and Trinity County. Dr. Kuhn?
Yes, thank you very much, and I'll yield most of my time to Liz, but as I said, we've been in contact with the state. I've been in contact with both McGuire and Wood's office. We've been on several CDC conference calls and with the governor. And so everybody is pulling together and trying to get the information out as quick as we can as it comes through. But I'm going to turn over to Liz and her team to let you know what the county is doing in preparation for this.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and the Board. Liz Hamilton, Interim Director, Health and Human Services. So I have a team with me today that will take moments to let them debrief where we're at. We know that this is a much different situation than where we were a week ago. We're staying on top of the information the best that we can. We're dedicated to keeping our community and the board county staff, everyone informed. As you know, the governor declared state of emergency earlier this month, and heavily monitoring the situation until last week we saw more rapid change, and then even more so yesterday. We're seeing that across the state with new executive orders. And so we are on top of this. We are working together. I think this is the new normal for now. Social distancing, there's very specific guidelines that we encourage everyone to follow. This isn't a permanent new normal, it's just a new normal for now. And so we want to encourage people to have personal preparedness, community preparedness for a lot of our population that is over the age of 65. We want to make sure we're reaching out via telephone and checking in on those folks and providing support and care the best we can. We want to stay calm and promote a sense of calm in our community. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marcy Kudzel, our Public Health Director, for a report, and then we will hear from our OES manager at Presley, and then Sarah Sakahan from the school district is here. And Christy Anderson.
We're having a difficult time hearing over the conference call, so you can turn that mic up a little bit.
And then Christy Anderson, our Environmental Health Director, will report out.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. Marcy Kudzel, Public Health. I'd like to give you an update on COVID and what we know right now. We're starting where we stand, and it's an ever-changing issue. In California, as of 3/15/2020, there were 8,316 tests that were done. There have been 335 positive tests in California, and there have been 6 deaths in California. In Trinity County, we have tested 8 people. 7 of those tests have come back negative. 1 is pending. The California Department of Public Health has stood up their medical health coordination center, and they're working with throughout the state to help local health departments address this issue. Our medical health operational area coordination program is fully staffed to ensure that we're able to procure medical and health resources in the event that we need those. The health department, the DOC, the Department Operations Center, is fully operational. We're staffing phone lines and working diligently with our providers, our healthcare providers, and answering questions from the public. There's a lot of concern, and we understand that, and I'm hoping today I can help shed some light on what we know and what we expect to happen in the future. Precedent tells us in pandemics that the best way to mitigate severe illness and death is to isolate people that are at greatest risk. And we call that self-isolation, and you've seen that recommendation come across from both the governor and the California Department of Public Health and CDC. And that, we're not sure how long that will be, but there'll be more to come on that. Regarding testing, I want to provide some information because I think there's a lot of confusion around testing. We are able to test people in Trinity County. The testing right now occurs through medical providers, healthcare providers, because part of the criteria is the testing occurs for people who have symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19, the coronavirus illness. Those are fever, cough, shortness of breath. The other issue is providers are to rule out something else that could explain those symptoms, strep being one and flu being another. That's where we're standing right now, and that's what we're doing in Trinity County. So we're asking the public, when they call, if they're asking to be tested, first, do they have symptoms? Because that's why we're referring them to the medical provider, so that their provider can conduct that screening and then do the appropriate test. Currently, the tests that the specimens that we collect in Trinity County must be sent out to be tested somewhere else. We don't have the capability of running those tests and getting a result. So those tests either go to Shasta County Public Health, or they go to commercial labs. There's now commercial labs online, LabCorp, Quest. The turnaround time for those tests is anywhere from 24 hours to 4 days. We're working in close contact with CDPH and CDC to stay abreast of the testing. There are questions around mass testing of people. We are prepared to do whatever is indicated to protect our population. I'm here to answer any questions. The other thing I would like to address is the masking issue. There seems to be some confusion around that. The mask prevents people who have the illness or a illness from coughing or sneezing and spreading those droplets to other people that are within 6 feet of them. If you look at the video of someone sneezing, you can see that those pretty much travel a distance. So those masks are not for everyone to wear. It's not recommended for well people to wear those. People who have symptoms that could spread the illness, those are the ones we want to mask, to create a barrier, because they're waterproof and they'll create a barrier for those droplets. They also don't know, there's things that aren't known yet, unfortunately. We do know that the illness ranges from mild to severe. 80% of cases so far have been mild. Those at greatest risk are those over the age of 65 with chronic health conditions of any age, such as asthma, lung disease, heart disease, diabetes, that type of thing. I think that's all. I think that's it for me for right now. I know that Ed, our OES manager, is going to have some updates for you as well as environmental health, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Marcy. This is an important issue for the public, and I've received a lot of calls this last week. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen other counties really go into complete shutdown. Obviously, they have a larger population. And I know there's certain mechanisms that all of you in your business look for to determine that, and you work closely with our public health officer.
Mm-hmm.
So do you, given our sparse population, that probably helps us. But until a case is confirmed, is that really the first trigger for us locally to look at some other things we need to implement? Or does that have nothing to do?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question, Supervisor Morris, but what I do know is we're looking at mitigation. So we've gone from surveillance to now mitigation. And in past pandemics, the precedent shows us that the steps we are taking are steps to mitigate severe illness in our most at-risk populations.
So if we do get a confirmed case, are there other steps we're going to have to implement?
Absolutely. One of the roles of the health department that's in statute is that we have to respond and contain certain communicable diseases, and that includes any novel illness, which is what coronavirus is. So the process for that is, and that's why we're staying in close contact with other counties around us, as well as our healthcare providers, is that when we have a case, and how we know that is we're tracking those tests, and we know precisely what that result is when the lab knows. Once we have a positive case, before that, we've already reached out to the people that are being tested and have provided them information, as well as their providers providing them information with how to isolate while they're under investigation. So once we have a positive test, then we work an outward parameter. So we start with the person, and we determine every person they've come into contact with, and then we touch every person they've come into contact with, and we work outward in a concentric circle that way. The challenge will be with the case depending on how many people a positive person has interacted with. And if we do our job well on the front end with people who are being tested and isolate them early, there'll be less people that they've come into contact with that could have potentially exposed. So we're getting resources in place and through our OES and our region working on if we need staff to do that. You will all be informed and made aware of what steps will need to be taken as a result of a positive test and what that looks like, because our concern is that with the flu, you can give it basically to one person, but with COVID, they're saying it's exponential. You see the numbers grow exponentially. That's because for every one person, it looks like 2 people are being infected. So that's what we know right now.
Switching gears slightly, over the weekend, the governor issued some advisory or guidelines pertaining to businesses, restaurants, bars. Obviously, it's not necessarily the way my understanding was a complete mandate, but highly encouraged, like he highly encouraged last week, the 250 population in gatherings, to cancel those. So a lot of businesses are in my district. Are we as a county to be giving some extra guidelines on what they really need to do? Or are they pretty basic given what the state has issued?
Well, the way that I tend to frame, and any public health department in any county frames this, is the ultimate goal is distance, social distancing. And social distancing is at least 6 feet. So if you cannot maintain 6 feet between people, that is the guiding principle. So in any venue, in any building, any convening where you cannot maintain 6 feet from people, then it shouldn't occur. I think that's Governor Newsom's philosophy, and it is the health department's philosophy as well. I'm going to turn it over to Christy, because Christy, I think, can talk more about the impact to the restaurants and bars and things like that, if you have no more questions.
Yes.
I have one quick question. So I've had a couple of complaints about that the hospital doesn't do the test when people feel they should do the test. Now, do you work with a hospital, or do you guys work independently of each other? Just explain to me how that...
There is no independent work in a pandemic. A pandemic or an outbreak of significance requires the public health department to continuously be in contact with hospitals and clinics and work with them for them to get the resources they need, to give them the information they need to take care of their patients in this challenging event. There's a lot, one of the fundamental issues is around testing. We all know that, we listen to the news. Fundamental issue around testing, who gets tested, why do we test? So it's moving people along, healthcare providers and everyone, with understanding, okay, who do we test and when do we test them? And that's going to change on a day-to-day basis. We're going to inform our providers what the most current recommendation is, what they need to do, and they contact the health department. We're working to ensure that all providers contact the health department to be issued a number for the patient, because that's how we can track them and all of this. It's very important that we maintain people's confidentiality. That has to happen, but we have to be able to do that and do our job. So there are numbers assigned, so the health care providers have to contact the health department to get that number. And so what we do is we follow up with them around, did they wear their PPE? Are they being really diligent about people that come in with a cough and ill? Are they donning their protective equipment to ensure that they're not being exposed? And really operating from a position that you're testing someone. So by virtue of testing them, because we've gone from, okay, we're testing someone, but they likely don't have it because we don't know where they would have gotten it from, right? They didn't travel here, they didn't travel there. But with broader community spread, that's going to be less and less a factor. People, as you have more and more community spread, people can get it by being in contact with other people. So still it's kind of, are you in contact with someone who's ill? But if in the physician's decision or the provider's decision that it's prudent to test that person, they will test first for other illnesses that may be explaining that. And then if there's a high degree of suspicion, even in spite of that, they'll recommend testing for COVID. That's where we stand right now, and that's how we're working with healthcare providers, is to try to bring them along with that and the public along. And as the guidelines change and as testing becomes more available, then we relook at that.
Yes, please.
So do we have, there's a lot in the news about not enough tests, and do we have enough testing capability in the county at this point?
That's a difficult question to answer right now, and here's why. For who we're recommending testing, yes. There is communication that's going on to make. We want to make sure the public knows when they should contact a healthcare provider about testing, and if people are ill, we want them to contact their healthcare provider. If they have a cough, if they have a fever, if they're feeling ill, they have shortness of breath. And then we want the healthcare provider to screen them over the phone. Now, we take calls at the health department. For people who have questions, they can call us and say, do you think I need to be tested? And the first question we're going to ask is are they ill? We are not experiencing a shortage of testing in our county based on the guidelines to test right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's your projection in 3 weeks?
Around what? I'm sorry, Supervisor.
You think you'll have enough tests? It's a rhetorical question. It'll
Here's what I
it'll
can,
grow and grow.
here's what I can say. I have faith in our public health systems. I have faith in our emergency operations systems, in our environmental health systems, and I have faith in our healthcare systems. And with public health systems leading the way, we know what we're doing. And so I wanted to say I'm just so proud to work in a county that is just so amazing. Our supervisors, our county administrative officer, our HR, we have absolutely put in place some things that are going to help people and save people's lives. And I'm really proud of that.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah. I'll let Christy.
Okay, one more question.
Oh.
Sorry, I think this might be for you, Marcy. So, of course, the other guidance from the state for the governor's office is those over 65. Obviously, you know our population weighs heavy in the older age brackets, and there's probably receiving some calls. How do we get supplies? Is there a mechanism to do outreach for our seniors who are staying home, whether it's help with groceries, prescriptions, checking in, besides the community doing that as well, which this community is great about doing those things?
Yes. What I can say, I think Liz can probably respond to that too. Our director, Liz Hamilton, can probably respond to that. And I think Ed from OES could probably respond to that. Because it's in any disaster, you have to have in place systems that will do that. And a pandemic is a disaster. So I think I would turn it over to Ed and Liz to answer those questions. Supervisor Morris? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In response to that, so kind of twofold. The Office of Emergency Services, as we continue to staff that and respond in logistics and planning, we've seen that in fire instance where we have volunteer base, folks that want to come forward and support. And so that all is funneled through and organized through OES structure so that we keep it organized and people know where to go for resource, that we're tracking that. So we will evolve into that. Now, the second is that social services, that side of our house, adult protective services, IHSS programs. The governor is putting out guidance today. We were told that it would be out today for waivers within those programs, and then additionally tasks to follow up with the vulnerable populations that maybe are homebound or reliant on other folks for their day-to-day care. And so we will have more after we receive that guidance from the state for those populations.
I don't have anything to add. I think you covered it perfectly there. So it's just one thing that I'd like to say is, just like during fire season when we have a wildfire, we rely on the subject matter experts. In this case, it would be CDPH, and they would be giving their guidance from CDC, and then CDPH would give their guidance to our local public health, which is Marcy. And so basically all we're going to do is support her to the utmost ability that we have. And it's going to center around messaging as this thing does continue to evolve and grow. So what we're doing is we're going to take some of the burden off of public health and move it over to OES so that everyone knows that they can call the number at OES, which is 530-623-1116. That should now be the focal point for messaging going forward. That way they can better do their job and not be inundated with phone calls all the time. So if anybody has any questions or anything going forward, just please call that number and we'll try to get the information out to you.
Supervisor Morris has a...
Don't leave. Can you repeat that number again, please?
It is 530-623-1116.
And my second question, I'm glad you raised the item that this really is just like a fire, and all of you have worked like a very well-oiled machine when fires come through or a road goes out. And as you've heard me say many times, messaging and communication is really key, especially on the onset of these things, as the public needs to have their nerves calm. And that it's one thing for me to say, yeah, we have a great team, but it's just me saying that. And that all of you are on it and the state is on it, but any great simple communication moving forward to just keep everybody up to date would be really helpful. And I think you'll be doing that as you explained, so thank you.
That is the intent. Well, yeah, and we will be posting updates on Trinity County webpage,
Yeah.
on the OES website, and then HHS Facebook page as well.
Perfect, that's what people look for, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
But they can call me, that's my personal number at my desk, so, and if I don't know the answer, Public Health actually has produced a script for me along with Environmental Health. So I have a script that I can just kind of peruse down through and get the information, but if I don't have it, then I will get it and get back with the person.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Supervisors. So I just wanted to give you an update as far as the press conference that was held by Governor Newsom's office on Sunday afternoon. There was advice to a call to action to close bars, brewery, pubs, and wine bars. And as of yesterday night, there's also, they're suggesting that we limit all restaurants to dine-in or takeout. And really the point behind all of that is to really eliminate additional sources of an outbreak. And dry surfaces, the virus can live on. It's mainly spread through droplets. And there's no proof through CDPH or FDA that they're releasing that has anything to do with food-to-food contact or handling. I think the goal is to get us down to essential functions, and we really do need food facilities open to provide food to the public as needed. So I think that that's the overall goal, and I think that's why we're moving in that direction. However, like you said, it's not a mandate yet. And I have had many inquiries from bars, restaurants, etc., and we really want to keep that strong partnership with our food facilities, which includes bars, so that we can move forward and keep a safe and healthy Trinity County. So, is there any follow-up questions to that?
No, I just need that clarification for the public, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And we did send out mailers yesterday, but they're already out of date, and they're going to be another one today, so. Great.
Superintendent Sarah Supan. I'm Sarah Supahan, Superintendent of Schools for Trinity County. What I'm giving you is our latest update on school closures. You'll find it on our website as well as on our Facebook page. That is updated as of last night at 6 p.m. We have 9 different districts in our county. We also have a California Heritage Youth Build charter school that we sponsored here, but is actually located in Redding. And we have our own community school that we call Rise Academy. So each of those districts have their own superintendent and their own board, their own governing board. So they each have made different decisions based upon their local needs at their school for their kids. So you'll see some that have closed down completely. Some are doing a closure this week while they kind of organize instructional materials and food service, and then they'll be open next week. So there's a whole list of the different ways that people have figured out what their kids need. Some of them are what we're calling soft closures, and what they're doing is basically recognizing that some of their kids don't have the resources at home or have parents who have essential jobs in our county, so that those kids don't really have a place to stay and to isolate at home. So they're basically isolating in the classroom. So if you think of each of those small classrooms with whatever kids are left at the school, because a lot of parents are doing independent study at home, which they're totally fine with. But so that's the small group that's left is basically isolating in their classroom. They're not mixing with other classrooms. They're not eating with other classrooms. So it's like a family within the classroom. And that's, like I said, some districts have felt that that was the best for their student population so that they could continue to feed those kids, make sure their hands are clean, make sure they're not coughing on each other, all those kinds of things. Others have decided to basically stay open, but with the understanding that if parents want their kids home, they can do that with independent study. So we have a smorgasbord right now of the different closures and non-closures. You'll see tonight that Coffee Creek is also closing. So
I think eventually we'll be seeing more and more kids not in the classrooms, that even for those that are open right now.
So I have a quick question. One of the concerns with our high poverty rate within Trinity County, and that data might be in this, so I apologize if it is, the food services. Could
Right.
you address that, please?
Yes, again, we all recognize how much our kids need to get those free lunches and free breakfasts. Again, different schools are doing it different ways, but what we've been encouraging and recommending is that if they have bus service, that they continue that bus service to drop off food at the places where they normally collect kids. Because we know that kids can get there and then they can just be there to pick up their meals for the day. We're working towards that in most of the districts. Some districts are having kids come to the school to pick up meals because they feel their population can do that. But that's what we're encouraging. We are making sure that kids get fed. That's important to us as well.
It sounds very complicated. It sounds like
It's
evolving. And
It is.
I just sincerely appreciate that effort to the youth of our community.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir, thanks for the hard work.
Yeah.
So the financial, has the governor come out with your financial issues? Because obviously you're not going to have income.
Right.
with ADA.
We will have income. So they've assured us verbally yesterday at our meeting with the governor's office and the state superintendent of public instruction. I just saw the press release for SB 117 that just got passed this morning. I haven't had a chance to read through it all, but what I did see is it looks like it's reassuring everyone that we will continue to get funding. I think superintendents have to send a letter to the state saying they closed because of COVID, something to that effect. But they've been really flexible on that and saying they understand the situation, we can continue to pay our employees even if the school shuts down completely, and even if they don't provide instruction, so that the teachers don't even have to be there to be creating the materials. They're being very lenient, and I believe with child care programs as well, early childhood education programs, I believe they're still going to be funded. I'm not sure how that works yet because they say based on ADA. I don't know if they're taking an average of ADA prior to this closure or how that mechanism is going to work, but they're going to continue to fund us somehow.
What about the overall minutes for the year? Are you guys going to have?
They're setting that aside.
Okay.
Along with testing, they're trying to get a waiver from the feds regarding things like absenteeism and the testing rate and a couple of other things that those come from the federal government in terms of what we have to abide by. So they're trying to get a waiver on those as well.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to thank you and your team over, everybody at your school and working with our team. So we will get through this, but it's an ever-changing adaptive management situation.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
And our administrators have been working really hard and not sleeping very much. So yes, I appreciate them.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Sheriff Saxon, did you want to add anything to this discussion at all?
No.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Kins, I'll turn it back over to you. Would you like to explain any precautions that you have put in place for our employees?
We have a couple of items on the agenda. The addendum is one of them, and then also bring to the attention in our consent 2.20, we'll be asking the board to ratify the public health officer's proclamation of emergency, which is very similar to what we've done in the car fire, that kind of stuff that makes the counties eligible for there's a threshold of funding, but it makes the counties eligible if we meet that threshold to assist. And with this one, it would surprise me if we do meet that threshold. I will be meeting with all the directors, department heads tomorrow, and laying out some guidelines for staff as far as if they are quarantined, work from home, possible department closures, those type of things. So I'll report back to the board after after we have that meeting tomorrow.
So I'm going to go on to the proclamation, the item 1.1. Adopt a proclamation of appreciation which recognizes Director of Health and Human Services and Office of Emergency Services, Letty Garza, for her years of public service and retirement.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. You can just imagine as I'm sitting listening to all this, I take a deep breath and apologize that I'm not here to help. I cannot be more proud than hearing and listening to the amazing team that I think Supervisor Morris, said it so perfectly. We've established a very well-oiled machine, and I really thank the leaders and management team at HHS for that. I did write a few things that I did want to say. I really want to thank you for this special recognition. It's been an absolute honor working for you for the past 24 years. Of course, I've served many board members through that time period. However, I look back and think between all the items I presented to the board, nothing was ever challenged or denied. So I really appreciate that on behalf of HHS. I appreciate the support and confidence that you've had in me and in the positions that I've had working for Trinity County. I especially want to thank not only Daryl Forsland, who was my first contact with the county when I first moved here, but I also definitely want to thank Linda Hymas. She was the first department head that hired me in the Treasurer Tax Collector's office. My first walk in the door with Trinity County. And of course, last but not least, Director Linda Wright. She really provided me a lot of opportunities at HHS, and I really want to recognize her for that. I have a special appreciation for my daughter, who's here today. She has been my biggest support during my career. She put up with me while I was finishing my college degree. I was a single mom at the time, and she has become an amazing young woman, and I'm very proud of her, and I just really appreciate her being here with me today. I did my best all these years for you, and I really want to honor my parents, who really taught me a very strong work ethic from a very young age. I couldn't have done it with their example, and I especially, could not have done my job without the amazing staff at HHS. I think I said it at my last, director's report. I couldn't be more proud and cannot praise them enough for being so dedicated between all the many programs that we serve our county, as well as our new program areas such as OES and Veteran Services Officer. HHS is a very well-oiled machine, just as Supervisor Morris said. I'm leaving with amazing memories. Of course, raising my daughter is my highlight during my journey, and I just can't thank you enough for everything you've given me. I appreciate the county did provide that college reimbursement program, because that's something I encourage all my staff to do, because I really am a true advocate for education. It definitely provided me all the tools and skills that help me in my leadership in health and human services. So I really thank the county for that program. I hope you continue to support that for our county employees. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I don't have anything else to say.
We actually have something for you. This is from the Board of Supervisors, a proclamation. Whereas Letty's distinguished career in public social services began 36 years ago in Siskiyou County, followed by Madera County, and then 24 years ago on March 18th, tomorrow, 1996, she was hired by Trinity County. And whereas Letty performed as an exemplary employee in the Trinity County Tax Collector's Office, Child Support Services Department, and Probation Department before starting her career as Health and Human Services. And whereas Letty was hired in the Health and Human Services Department as an Administrative Service Officer on March 17th, that's today, 1997, and subsequently promoted to Chief Fiscal Officer on April 19th, 1999. On February 1st, 2003, she was promoted to Deputy Director, whereas she served for 12 years, safeguarding and edifying the fiscal integrity and the agency and providing professionalism, ethical trust, and outstanding leadership to staff. And whereas Letty was appointed as Director of Health and Human Services on August 15, 2015, and continued to thrive as an unwavering leader in county government through formidable challenges, serving our community's most vulnerable population, while raising a new generation of leaders and promoting the teamwork. And whereas Letty enthusiastically to actively engage the public in quality service, outreach, and awareness, advance the scope of health and human services to include the Office of Emergency Services in 2017 and the Veteran Services in 2019. And whereas Letty has dedicated her entire professional career to public service, displaying a strong work ethic, cultural competence, sense of humor, loyalty, and dedication. She will be profoundly missed. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Supervisors and the County of Trinity commends Letty Garza, Health and Human Services Director, for her years of dedicated service of the County of Trinity, and does hereby wish her a happy and a healthy retirement. Duly passed and adopted this 17th day of March 2020 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity. Thank you.
Would you like a motion for that?
So moved.
Yes, second.
Thank you. All those in favor? We'll take public comments first, thank you. And I think a couple people had something to say. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
We miss you. Letty is one of my favorite people in this world. And I don't say that lightly, she really is. And we do miss her. But I think one of the things that speaks to her leadership is that she can walk away in happy retirement and the system still works. And that is, what can you ask for that is better than that? That is her as a leader in a nutshell. She trusts people. She allows people autonomy to do their work. She's an incredible example, calm all the time. I know that we have been, she's been mentoring me through this last couple of weeks. And I feel her. I can kind of channel her support and strength. And she has been an advocate for education. Everything that she spoke of is true, through and through. Our department has grown because of her leadership and ability to let us grow and thrive. And so she is missed, but we know that she thinks of us. I love her daughter too. So I know we have other managers that might want to speak, and another board probably has comments. So thank you, Letty.
Thank you.
Air hug.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is for you.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of working for Letty for the last 3 years before. It would have been for November if she'd stayed. Anyway, I remember interviewing with Letty, and the first thing I noticed about Letty is She lights up a room when she smiles, when she laughs, and she just beamed. And I could see her out of the corner of my eye. The very first question she asked me is, what do you think of public health? And it's no secret, I love public health. And I could see her beam that grin. And when I left that interview, I thought, you know, Lord, I hope I get to work for this woman. And I was blessed to be able to work for Letty Garza. She is a champion of public health. She's a champion of people. She is fearless. She is one of the, and I don't say this lightly, and I'm quite old, so I've had a lot of leaders and mentors in my life and colleagues, and she's one of the best. She is one of the best, and I'm so fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with her and for her, even for a short time. I love you. I'm not going to hug you.
Example.
Letty, I've had the opportunity to work with you directly and indirectly over many years. And every opportunity I've had to work with you has been outstanding, through emergencies and non-emergencies. And I've loved every moment of it. Let me tell you, retirement is not all it's cracked up to be. Okay? I've done it twice. I wish you the best of luck. But it's another chapter, and I'm going to miss you. But hey, you'll be around. And enjoy the next career.
I'd just like to also say thank you to Letty. One of the things I tell the directors is the less time I spend with you, the better job you're doing. So I really didn't get to know Letty that well. She did such a wonderful job. So thank you for making things so easy. You were an example to everybody. Thank you.
Lenny, we worked together on a bunch of different stuff in the past 4 years, and I think I can sum up how much I respect you in today's presentations. That, and with no disrespect to Liz or Marcy, as they were speaking of this, you were shaking your head yes, which made me feel very comfortable that what they were telling us was what should be done. So my respect to you is great, and I appreciate the time that we spent together.
I made it short. I talked about you 2 weeks ago, but I think Liz took the words right out of my mouth. You walked away, and the system is really running well, and that really is a testament to your management and leadership. So you left us in good hands, so thank you and all the best. Thank you.
We haven't got a chance to meet too much, but thank you for
And next time we take the pictures first, because I'm crying. You're crying. You display a balance of power and authority on one side, and then on the other side, compassion and really genuineness. And that is rare. It is just unbelievably rare. And it's such a great high standard. And you created a vacuum, and it's being filled. And because of that leadership, the ones coming behind you have that in them in an instinctive way. So you're a gem. Thank you. So the next time we take the pictures first. The whole board wants to take the picture. Oh, really?
Keep you from
Oh, I can't believe over March 17th and 18th. I know. It's unbelievable.
Go behind everybody. So it's good stuff. How's that?
Yeah.
Can you go, do you want to be in?
Do we need to balance out?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
In front of you.
Look at the camera.
Thank you.
Two more to go. Oh, I'll read whatever you need. What do you want?
My
Sure,
eyes are all
absolutely.
blurry from crying. You could read social service.
Go ahead and do your job.
Thank you. I'm trying to read. Health and Human Services 1.2, adopt a proclamation of appreciation which recognizes March 2020 as Social Work Appreciation Month on March 17, 2020 as Social Work Day. No fiscal impact. Supervisors Henry will read it.
And here's our proclamation, a proclamation of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity proclaiming March 2020 as Social Work Month and March 17, 2020 as Social Work Day. Whereas the social work profession is one of the fastest growing professions in the United States, with more than 777,000 people expected to be employed as social workers by the year 2028. The social work profession for generations has worked to strengthen the well-being and meet the basic needs of all people, especially people who are vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty. And whereas the social work profession is a diverse profession that allows people of various generations, ethnicities, sexual identities, and religious backgrounds to make an immediate positive impact on our nation and world. And whereas social workers work in all parts of society to meet people where they are and empower them to live up to their fullest potential, the social work profession, more than many other professions, has expansive boundaries that allow social workers to work in a variety of settings, including schools, centers for veterans, the military, hospitals, and mental health centers, corporations, and local, state, and federal government. And whereas social workers for generations have worked with other professions, community groups, lawmakers, civil rights, and other organizations to bring equal rights for all, including women and people who are African American, Latino, Native American, LGBTQ, and of various cultural, ethnic, and religious groups. And whereas the social work profession has been in the forefront of pushing for changes that have made our society a better place to live, including minimum wage, improved workplace safety, and social safety net programs that help, this is a different word, I have no idea what this word means, nor how to pronounce it. Eliminate? Any help here from anybody? Okay. Sounds good. Poverty. Might have been eliminate poverty and hunger. And whereas social workers have been and continue to stand ready to help our nation in times of crisis, including war, natural disasters such as floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes, social workers have the expertise to help our nation handle some of its most pressing issues, including equal rights for all, improved health care and mental health care for all, immigration reform, income inequality, and the environmental impact of climate change. We're covering it all here. And whereas the years of Social Worker Month theme, Social Workers Generation Strong, embodies the heroic work of social workers who for more than a century have worked to make our society a better place to live. And whereas Social Work Day is on March 17th, 2020, it is the key day in the year that social workers worldwide stand together to advance our common message globally. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity hereby proclaim March 2020 as Social Worker Month and March 17th, 2020 as Social Work Day in Trinity County, and call upon Trinity citizens to join the National Association of Social Workers and Trinity Health and Human Services in celebration and support of the social work profession, duly passed and noted on the 17th day of March 2020 by the Board of Supervisors of Trinity County, and I'd like to make a motion to move this forward.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. So, is anybody specific receiving it? Liz? Thank you, Liz.
I'd like to thank the board. Thank you for receiving this and proclaiming this, the National Association of Social Work. I'm very proud to spearhead this across the nation and drawing attention to just our social work staff, whether it be support staff, social workers, analysts, supervisors, managers. They have a great workload and they do excellent work in both child welfare services and adult protective services. The day-to-day mandates that they have are extensive in safeguarding the well-being of vulnerable populations. I'm very proud of the work, and Mario Angeloni and Mike Catoni are both of our program managers over those programs, and I have full faith and confidence in the way that they lead their groups. And so thank you for acknowledging this group of staff. Thank you.
Want to take a picture?
Sure. Just a comment first regarding this. The word is eliminate, and it means to be more tolerable or to tolerate. Thank you. I learned something new again today.
Rachel, I saw you didn't. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this one through without crying unless Dr. Johnson, would you like to do this one? Trying. Adopt a proclamation which recognizes senior fiscal analysis Rachel Sanger on her retirement from Trinity County's probation department. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Good morning, board. First off, I'd like to say that with all this COVID-19 stuff going on and everything else, I'm very impressed with the date you chose to retire. With skills like that, I'm sure, as Sheriff Saxon says, you won't have any problem finding another career. So,
Top of the morning to you.
That's the day to you.
so a few words. I'll put it in the analogy, a cruise ship analogy. It might not be the most popular one right now, but in terms of employees, there's engine room people, there's, and they're the ones that want to keep the diesels humming and the screws turning. There's fly bridge people that want to have their hands on the wheel all the time. And then, of course, there's Lido deck people that just want to do the conga line all day and party and have fun. Rachel, you are a true engine room person, the kind of county employee that really keeps this county running. And I appreciate that. Yes, you got a little Lido deck personality as well, which is very much appreciated, but it's everything you've done for the county, what you've done for our department. You've been truly my right hand in the department. You've always had my back. Rachel has always had the best interest of the county at heart. For her skills and what she's provided to us in the county over these years, I just want to say thank you. Best wishes for you in your next career or in your retirement. I know that's something you've been looking forward to for a number of years. So I would love to give you a big hug, but it's going to have to be an elbow bump instead. I don't know if you'd like to say a couple of words, but
Just a couple, I'm not one for public speaking, but I do want to tell the board how much I appreciate all the opportunities given to me in the county. And I've worked from child support, behavioral health, CAO's office to probation, and I've managed a lot of budgets and paid a lot of bills, and I've learned so much that I don't think I would have gotten opportunities to learn in any other county. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I'm going to try to read this without crying.
It's Keith's turn.
Yeah, I think so.
It's over, I'm sorry, Keith, I owe you big time.
Come on, there's no crying in proclamations. Proclamation of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity recognizing the retirement of Senior Financial Analyst Rachel Sanger from the Probation Department. Whereas beginning on August 4th, 2006, Rachel began her career as Child Support Assistant, Trinity County Child Support Services, excuse me. I thought that made no sense. Whereas on January 2nd, 2007, Rachel was promoted to the position of Account Tech 1, being later promoted once again in December 1st, 2007 to the position of Account Tech 2, in which she served with dedication and distinction. And whereas on May 10th, 2010, Rachel was appointed as Deputy Director of Business Service to the Trinity County Behavioral Health Department and continued to serve her community in an honorable manner. Whereas on September 1st, 2013, Rachel was appointed as Senior Financial Analyst with the Administration Office and continued to serve her community in an honorable manner. And whereas on May 1st, 2016, Rachel served the Trinity County Probation Department as Senior Financial Analyst and to continue to serve her community in an honorable manner. And whereas for the past 14 years, Rachel has professionally performed all her duties and responsibilities above and beyond what is expected of as a county employee. And whereas Rachel has played a key behind-the-scenes role in serving her community and supporting programs that provide improve the lives of our citizens, and whereas Rachel can now dedicate more time and family to her passion of travel, now therefore be proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity commends Rachel for her nearly 14 years of dedicated service to the County of Trinity, and hereby wishes her the most happy and healthy retirement, duly passed and adopted on the 17th day of March 2020 by the Board of Supervisors in the County of Trinity.
Thank you. So we'll just go jump. We're going to move to our 10 o'clock public hearing. Solid waste. Go ahead and do the items. 3.1, conduct a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution establishing a schedule of fees and providing for appropriate exemptions and credits for the county waste disposal system for 2020 and 2021. Revenue of approximately $900,000 to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Court. Diane Rader, Deputy Director of Solid Waste. This is our first public hearing for our annual parcel fee. Setting the fee of $100 per unit billed to property owners and businesses within the county. And we've gone a few years without having disposal cards, and with the addition of stricter reporting rules, then I need to gather more information for the attendants to be able to give me the information to report. So we're going to put cards back in the system. And rather than have such a severe penalty on them like in the past that was keeping people from coming to the dump if they didn't have their card, rather we're going to have the cards and that control factor for the attendants to be able to collect the information, but I'd rather just put a $2 per visit fee on, which will, in essence, participate in the card support system for the infrastructure on the solid waste system without having to worry about, oh no, I don't have my card today, I have to pay an extra fee at the dump. If you've already got your card and if you've been through our billing system, then there would be no additional fee. And the attendants will have an alternate system to make sure and check to see if it is in fact someone in the system. This year I've also included copies of our information letter and the affidavits that go out, so those can be reviewed at this time also. These are the papers that go in with the billing each year, and it says what credits are available, the elderly low income, the vacant affidavit, and it explains how to use them. And I think that is it.
Supervisor Finley has
Just to make it clear, the additional reporting isn't of your desire. I assume it's California, State of California or Cal Recycle?
And Cal Recycle has made new reporting requirements,
Fantastic.
yes.
Just so it's not, the board isn't requiring it, neither are you, it's the state.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Could you explain the alternate system? Once you're in the system, you said, could you?
We're going to keep a master list that roughly is by the billing numbers by groups, so that they can have a list that just says, okay, these are the people that are in the system, and it'll be like just a book of memberships actually is what it would be. So if you don't have your card that day, then the attendant will be able to look it up on a list, because there are certain codings and information that I need for each of the people coming through the dumps. But I don't want it to be a fight of whether I really have my card or if I don't have my card. It'll take more time, and I'd really prefer that people bring their cards to make the attendant's job easier in collecting the information we need. But there'll be a list that they can look at if people just, oh, I forgot my card today, and they'll be able to look it up.
So everybody that's paid the $100 will be on your list?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What if we take a picture of our card and have it on our phone? Would that help?
That would be helpful. They just need the numbers and
Right,
information
exactly.
that I'm putting on
And
the
now
card.
it's time for you to design an app. Trinity Solid Waste.
I'll add that to my list of things.
Yeah, absolutely, put it right there at the top.
Yes.
Any other questions? No, that's it.
Thank you.
So this is the first of 2 hearings, correct?
There are actually 3 hearings altogether. This one is setting the fees and allow for the billing. It says in the information letter, it's either the end of May or the beginning of June. There'll be another one for people to come and say that they disagree with what the billings are set at, so that we can adjust those and hear any protests. And then there'll be a delinquent hearing in August.
Public, yes. the public to come to. So.
Yes.
Public comment, yes. I said the public meeting. Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. And should I ask for the phone? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if
If you want a motion that we've heard the public here, we've had the public hearing. I'll make that motion, but we really don't need.
Yeah, we'll just check to make sure that was on the conference call.
Is there anybody on the conference call that would like to weigh in on the solid waste public hearing? I mean, hearing nothing, I'm bringing it back to the board.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Of the resolution, sorry, we have to.
But I have some comments.
Okay.
Number one, the not doing the cards was a huge asset to a lot of my constituents. So I'm disappointed that we will have, but I do appreciate the fact that you've come up with an alternative plan that is not quite as good, but will meet everybody's needs. And then my second is, I guess, a little off topic, so Chair can hit me with the head, but
You heard of
the, except she can't touch me now.
I've got a sticker.
There you go.
So when is sort of appropriate time to talk about we already voted on the per bag fees? Or does that come back up? The tipping fees, yeah, I guess it's, no.
The tipping fees are included in an ordinance that was approved in October. So those stay until there's some other time that we bring those fees back for any adjustments.
Okay, so I need to talk to you about this.
Okay.
And I'll remind the whole board that we are right now undergoing a fee study. So we should be updated this year. So.
Yes.
And, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so this resolution, could you put it on?
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Brown?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Yes.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, now we're moving back to consent, and I appreciate everybody's flexibility this morning. Board good to go? Okay. Consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. A member of the board, staff, or public may request an item be pulled and considered separately. Board?
Madam Chair, I have 2.7 and 2.8.
Anybody else on the board? Staff?
I do have, excuse me, I'm sorry, 2.9.
Going back to staff?
Again, I just want to remind the board that on 2.20, we're ratifying the proclamation for the emergency. I don't need to pull, I just want to, for the public and the board, just to remind them that we are moving forward with that.
And on my hard sheet, I don't have a 2.0.
2.20.
Oh, 2, okay, thank you. The added one. And then we have the added thing. Yeah, the same. Okay. No, the public has nothing to pull? And anybody on the telephone? Bringing it back to the board.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the elements of the consent agenda.
Second?
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Groves?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye. Okay. Item 2.7. Would you like me to read these independently and can we step out once? 2.7, find no operation to objection, to the insurance of daily alcoholic beverage license to E. Crappus Vitus Planters, Chapter 62, to serve alcoholic beverages to their dinner to be held at the CD Hall in Weaverville, California on April 11th, 2020. And may I read item 2.8? Find no objection to the issuance of daily alcoholic beverages license to the Trinity Trail Alliance to serve alcohol beverages at their sports event to be held at Loading Park in Weaverville, California on June 6, 2020.
Madam Chair, I will recuse off of both of these items.
Board, any comments or questions?
Taking them individually.
Yes, we will, yes. Public, we're at item 2.7. Does anyone have anything to comment? Having seen none, we'll bring it back to the board.
Motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve 2.7 as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, item 2.8, find no objection. I already read it, so I don't have to read it again.
So moved.
Second.
Public. Sorry, back. Okay. Sorry, we tried to get it in. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 2.9, adopt a resolution which authorizes an application for and acceptance of a competitive grant under Proposition 64's Public Health and Safety Grant Program. Potential revenue to the Sheriff's Office in the amount of $750,000 and to the District Attorney's Office in the amount of $250,000 over a 3-year period. Supervisor Morris?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions and comments on this. Obviously, this has been something that's been part of our thought process when we designed the cannabis program, that those counties who have a program are actually eligible to apply for this type of money. This has just been released, obviously, so I'm happy to see this come forward. Also, I saw in the backup, I think it's important to point out that, sorry, I don't have my mic. These funds can't be where we take, if we receive these funds or receive this grant, you can't take the money out of those departments because we're getting these new funds. So this is in addition to the normal budget for these two departments, which would be the Sheriff Department and the DA, the way I understand this. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a supplantation clause in there, yes.
Okay, and that, thank you, because I think that's really important to point out. This gives extra money for both of those departments to look on the, work on the illegal grows that are out there. Do you have any other comments on this? What your thoughts for these two departments besides, you know, the obvious, but.
Well, I'm going to put the sheriff on the spot here, but yes, it's also, not only is it enforcement, but it's also education. And I think it's for youth education, but we'll let the sheriff speak to that because he's getting the lion's share of it.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the primary focus of this grant is for education and youth intervention programs. And the primary focus would be for a, as we're going to be applying for, would be for a deputy to be doing youth programming and intervention with the schools. The secondary avenue of this would be towards cannabis eradication and working with the district attorney's office to provide support for what we're looking at is a program for a business.
Am I ahead of you?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. From the Sheriff's Department avenue would be to work with the school on a SMART program and a focus program where we're looking at working with juvenile crimes, similar to a program where the Sheriff's Department and Probation Department worked about 10 years ago, where we partnered up a deputy and a probation officer to work in the school environment, to work to reducing juvenile crimes and the health and welfare of the students in the elementary school and the high schools, not just in the Trinity Alps Unified School District, but the other school districts around the county. So that's the primary focus that we are looking at, and that's the primary, what they call PPA 1, that is required by the grant. Additionally in there, and I think I can probably turn this over to the CAO to address some of the other issues that have come up with the cannabis enforcement side of it.
Yes, yeah, the other side, again, the lion's share will be towards the education portion, but it does have an enforcement portion. And we're hoping within this grant we're able to purchase the satellite surveillance system we've been trying to do for quite a while, which is a very effective tool in enforcement of cannabis, because it allows the DA to actually sit at their desk and look at our county from a satellite perspective over a time period to see where new grows are being placed. It also will help environmental health. We're looking at areas that are being graded improperly or not permitted. So it has multiple benefits, and we're hoping that we'll be able to participate in that through this grant.
Will that information be able to be shared with the Federal Agency for Public Lands when there's a legal grow popping up? I mean, they probably have their own intelligence on that, but.
I believe so. We're partnership with most of them, so I believe the sheriff would.
Yeah, we would use that information as well with our partners. And when you're looking at those particular programs, we are in Trinity County primarily developing that information to use with the eradication efforts on public lands anyway. The intelligence that we develop is the driving force to bring in those resources with our federal and state partners anyway.
And do you feel this will be enough money to, besides the education part, but eradication on those illegal grows on private lands?
It's never enough.
Well, of course, it's never enough,
but it's a start.
Right.
And we will never turn down anything we can get, and we always make use of what we can get.
Great, yeah, I know. And this is, one of the thought process when all the rules started rolling out, that this pot of money would be available to those counties who engage in a developed program. If you're a banned county, there's certainly not any avenue to touch this money.
Correct.
Exactly, exactly. And right now, when you look at the parameters of this grant, Trinity County fits every one of the parameters. When we're looking at the avenues that we have available, especially with the youth intervention avenue of it, we fit every one of the categories now. We're working very closely with the Office of Education, with Sarah Sapahan. She's very excited about this. They have a lot of educational programs now that could very, very well utilize a deputy in those positions to complete what they're already doing, and that's why we're excited about being able to partner up with them. My office has been wanting to participate with them, but with a lack of funding, we don't have the availability to put a deputy in those positions. But obtaining this grant, that gives us the opportunity to do that.
Great. All right, thank you both for explaining a little bit more in detail. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Any other questions?
Yeah. So as I read, the funding from this comes from quote, Prop 64 provides that a portion of the tax revenue from cultivation and retail sales of cannabis or cannabis products will be appropriated to this program. So it was requested of us earlier today to consider a letter asking for the taxes to be relieved through a bill, which I have not been able to find yet, but oh well. I think it's important that we respect the fact that this tax revenue does come out of the cultivation and retail sales, and that any further change in that we would have to look at funding from other sources. So I guess my question is if we decide to think about a letter of support, we would have to have other funding sources in place for projects like this.
Yes, if this is stands to reason that if the tax revenue from cannabis throughout the state is reduced, then funding like this would be reduced, so we could put again the burden back on the county.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you, Keith.
Public comment?
Once again, John Brower from Junction City. This is an important matter, and so I have to ask that this item be postponed to a later date for several reasons. The biggest of which is, if you are familiar with the Prop 64 funding, if you look on this is the grant application that I'm reading right now. It's on page number 4, eligibility for funding. And it talks about, here I'll read, if a local government allows for cannabis delivery services, but does not allow for the establishment of local operation of a physical presence retail business, i.e. brick and mortar locations, that local government is not eligible for Prop 64 funding. It's right here in the application. So our current personal grow ordinance prohibits any sort of retailing. Even our non-storefront retail ordinance is currently in violation of that. So it's very important that we do this in order. We've got to repeal the existing personal grow ordinance, create a retail brick and mortar ordinance, then we could apply for this important funding. And there's something else really important here, and that is further down, if you keep reading on the grant application, under program description, it talks about different types. The PPA number 1 is the Youth Development, Youth Prevention and Intervention funding. It sounds like that's where they want some of this to go. Next one down is PPA 2, Public Health. The next one down is PP3, Public Safety, also very important. But PPA number 4, Environmental Impacts. These funds can be used to address the environmental impacts of cannabis cultivation. And I'll read, environmental impact refers to the prevention of human injury and promoting well-being by identifying and evaluating environmental resources and hazardous agents, by limiting exposure to hazardous physical, chemical, biological agents in the air, water, soil, food, and other environmental media or settings that may adversely affect human health. Activities that may be funded include, but are not limited to, technology, software, odor abatement, nuisance abatement, forest management, hazardous cleanup, sediment testing, and this is really important for Trinity County. These funds can be used for water systems and storage. That's where Trinity County needs to be spending this money, at least some of it. These should be grants available to our local cultivators that are trying to move over into the regulated side of the market to put in water storage and local water systems. This is big. And it was the original intent of Prop 64. So I've got to ask you, please postpone this important item until we can do it right. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Yes, once again, Tim Rogers, probation. So I did reach out to Bureau of State and Community Corrections to verify whether we are eligible as a county to apply, and was specifically told and provided documentation that as long as we have not banned retail sales, that we do qualify for this particular grant. I can provide documentation to the board if they would like on the actual document and person that I spoke to at BSCC.
I do have a, go ahead.
I also want to mention, oftentimes if we have something, that's moving forward and very close to being, reviewed and going through the public process as far as an ordinance goes for storefront retail uses, that as long as we have that in process, that also many grants will allow you to submit an application while it's in process, and that is in process right now.
Thank you. That actually helps lead into my question. Because of the proposal date of April 3rd, the county, if it passes today, and we find ourselves not having adequate retail, can we withdraw our application from the grant process?
You can withdraw it, but you also are still going to be subject to review for the grant eligibility. So if something changes to the point where you are prohibiting something, then that will likely be a determination that you're not eligible for it.
Okay.
So
Thank you for answering the question. Any other questions?
No, my understanding was that obviously we don't have a retail license yet available. Cultivation is certainly that program's going.
We haven't closed public comment yet.
Oh, actually did.
Yeah. Anybody on the phone have any, I forget about the phone, I apologize. Anybody on the telephone wish to comment on this? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board.
So my understanding was at least you had one of those two activities not banned and you would be eligible. And you're right, if we're not eligible, they'll kick it back to us and say try next time. If we had a date that was a little longer in the month, it's due April 3rd, we don't have another board meeting, so I understand the need to push this forward.
Yeah, reading the eligible, right at the top says, eligible applicants must be local governments that, underline, have not banned the cultivation or retail sales of marijuana or marijuana products. We have not banned retail.
Even though we don't have a license of them?
It's the personal grow ordinance absolutely bans
No,
retail.
sorry.
John.
No, absence of something does not mean that that you're banning it. Just like when we just got into that, well, we just got into it with stacking. We don't say we can't, so therefore we can.
It's like the hemp. We have a ban on hemp.
We have a ban on hemp, yes.
So,
And I could ask Tim or both Tims to come back up. The parameters of the grant are education and enforcement to get into other areas that the public spoke about. I don't think are part of this grant, but I'm not positive that this is enforcement and education.
so what is the pleasure of this board?
Motion to approve 2.9 as presented.
Second. I gather there'll be another round as well if we don't make this round.
Yeah, this, again, it's competitive, and we're competing against small counties. So I think there's a little $4 million for small counties. The small counties are considered under 200,000. So it's stiff competition, but yes, we're hoping that there'll be another round if this one, if we're not successful in this one.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chavez?
Aye. I believe next on the agenda is reports and announcements. Report from department heads. Anybody in the audience? Oh, wait a second. I apologize. Subsequent. Did we? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Shelley. I'm all discombobbled.
Corona.
It's
I
good
have-
yeah. Use that mask. Do that.
Good morning, Shelley Nelson, HR Director. Just wanted to update you, in spite of the COVID-19 coronavirus, we are working diligently with all the departments, implementing, we'll have a subsequent item coming up, so we'll discuss that at that time, but trying to, assist departments, employees, and the public on what our current processes are and what we're doing to mitigate additional exposures as necessary. We're working with departments who will be conducting interviews this week and progressively in the future. So we're trying, we of course are setting up the 6-foot distancing. If we're able to do them over the phone, we're working in that direction as well. And the big thing that Human Resources is working on this month is implementing
the salary increases that the past memorandum of understandings that passed for 3 bargaining units. And this is, several hundred employees we're going to be entering individually, one by one manually, so it's a big impact to our office. Staff is working long hours, and it extends out to staff in every department. It's a big undertaking, and everyone has a role, and we're working very well together and supportive, and looking forward to this coming through successfully on the March payroll. So I just wanted to bring that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other department heads in the audience? Anybody on the phone? Rick? Okay,
That's Rick leaving.
Kim Hunter, Building and Planning Director. I just wanted to update the board on a situation with commercial cannabis licensing. As of yesterday, we did put a hold on accepting new applications. This was done quite quickly. I was out of town Thursday and Friday, and upon returning, realized after talking with staff that we were very close, getting very near our 5:30 cap, and we are operating on limited staff with a high volume of work. And so this may just be temporary as we assess our situation. We're going through numbers right now to confirm where we are. A lot of things have happened very quickly, and again, we're very low on staff right now, especially in the cannabis division. So I chose to put the brakes on right now and slow the process up rather than keep charging down that road. Like driving down to work this morning, that slippery slope, coming down too quick and not being in a good situation. So I do apologize for not getting word out to the public and the board and the CAO's office. It did happen very quickly, along with some measures for our safety of our staff in the office. So there's a lot going on yesterday morning. We'll get information out on the website this afternoon, immediately when I get back, explain what decision was made in the situation and touching base with the public. Thank you. We also, in addition to the limited staffing, the extremely high workload right now with cannabis applications coming in, and knowing we're getting very close to that 5:30 cap, another reason for putting a temporary halt on accepting new applications is so we can get a policy on stacking established now that that has come up as an issue on how we are going to move forward with addressing stacking applications. So we are continuing to accept renewals and transfers. Those are still coming in. We do ask that they're made by appointment because they can take a little bit more time. So that is what I wanted to report this morning.
Thank you, Director. Supervisor Morris has a question. I think you answered my question, but obviously renewals, especially those with very little changes, if any, should just go through. And if I heard you correctly, you're putting a hold on new applications.
Correct.
And you'll have an idea when that hold will be lifted later in the week, or you'll have a better assessment?
Have a better assessment by the end of the week, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Groves has a follow-up.
So on licensing that has not renewed, do we have a policy on if it was due yesterday and they haven't paid, or are they gone out of the system now? Or do we have, I guess my question is, do we have a policy for that yet?
We don't have a policy, so if a license has an expiration date and it's not been, an application for renewal has not been received by that expiration date, it's considered expired at this point. And that is also part of the process we're going through, is we're vetting those renewals that may have expired or expiring soon, trying to reach out to those folks saying, are you going to renew? And that's part of accounting for our numbers of licenses as well.
Okay, I'm sure we would need to have consistent written policy so people know.
Yes, that's a good idea, but again, if the license is expired and no renewal application has been received and that date of expiration is passed,
They're done.
they're done.
Until they put an application back in for renewal?
That we're closed.
You what?
We are closed. If you're already at 5:30 and they're gone, the next person in line gets in.
Well, if a license holder has been in our program and barring if they just completely ignore us, given that we've done some great outreach to them, I can see that they're done if they're just ignoring us.
And that's why I asked for a
Yeah.
written policy
Yeah.
that the board can oversight.
Supervisor Grove's recommendation is well taken and a good idea. I also want to say that we do have a streamlined renewal application now online. We were using the full application that was for new applicants for commercial cannabis cultivation licenses, and that has been streamlined. It was just posted yesterday.
Okay, great. On those renewal applications, will it help to eliminate people at the counter? Can they do their whole renewal over the internet now?
They can't, unfortunately, or we don't have that.
So your
technology.
recommendation is that they do that and then they make an appointment
Yes.
to complete it?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. And we are accepting and issuing building permits and environmental health permits to the counter. We're encouraging any renewals or planning project application submittals. Those tend to take quite a bit of time, and we're limiting folks at the counter. So we are asking for those types of applications, renewals, transfers for cultivation licenses, and planning projects, such as just a use permit, that appointment is made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Terry McBrayer, Treasurer and Tax Collector. I wanted to touch base and kind of update you on a few things. There was, with the new property tax system, there was some efficiencies that were going to be taking place that we're pretty excited about, and so they are now in place. It's good timing with all this virus and everything going around. If you were to pay online, it'll update automatically in the system, which will help to alleviate a little duplication of efforts and hopefully decrease some phone calls coming in and wanting to know and timing, just so that if you pay online, it'll immediately show up in the system, which will reflect online. We are trying to encourage the public to try to eliminate the amount of people, because we tend to have a large amount coming in property tax time. So we're trying to encourage them to, if they can, pay online. Another thing that we've got set up is so that they can pay with, there's like a flat fee, a convenience fee that's charged for e-checks. So that's something that we have not had in the past, and so that's just a flat $2.25 to pay that way. So we're trying to, we are going to be a department that'll be affected by that, because we do have some of that vulnerable population, so we're going to be working extremely short-staffed. So that'll be something we'll address. We're going to touch base with the CAO on, but I wanted to make you aware of those new features that we've got coming up.
Great, thank you. I would like to make a suggestion, if I may, if you could put a flyer together for Dr. Coons to get to Jeffrey England, that he would be able to pass that out with his commodities at the beginning of the month. So he reaches a lot of the community that does not have internet, but maybe they would not want to come in. So
We do also have a drop box outside our office too, so those folks that don't want to come in and sit and wait, they're going to pay with, but that wouldn't, we're actually one of the counties that we still have a very high volume of cash, so I'm trying to hopefully encourage others to use other means besides cash if possible. So
thank you. Any other department heads? Okay, we'll move on. Dr. Coons?
I think we've hit on pretty much everything, but I just wanted to assure the Board of Supervisors and the county that we haven't been forgotten up here in the north, that we're participating in regional, state, and federal conversations with the coronavirus. I've had contact with both Woods and McGuire's office. They know we're here. Governor's office, and again with CDC, we're on, either myself or staff. are participating on live conference calls. So they know we're here, and we're keeping everybody abreast of what's going on in Trinity County.
A question of CEO, could we, like we do with our fire, when fires break out, have an ongoing agenda item on the top of the agenda, so Liz and her staff can give the board an update at each meeting, or who else is ever involved?
Yes, we lost Ed, didn't we? Oh, he's back there. Okay. Yeah, since the EOC has been open, he's our point of contact, so we can have he and Liz's office obviously come and address the board for any new concerns or updates, and we'll be also do email and publications too. But yes.
Because I think that's just a pattern we've created, and the public has appreciated that when fires have broken out. We've always, Forest Service would come and give us an update, or whoever's involved.
Okay.
So I think until this thing is over, and if there's nothing to update that week, there's nothing to update that week.
We will do that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Reports from the members of the Board of Supervisors?
I was at RC last week, and so here. A lot of the talk was about the coronavirus. Everything's been updated since then, so it's kind of irrelevant at this point. There'll be ongoing meetings. Everyone in the county seems to be already involved in all of those. We talked about some of the assembly bills that are going down the line, mostly about homeowners insurance. It's just going to be an ongoing issue. There's a RCRC ad hoc that is looking at it. It's composed of some insurance agents that sit on the RCRC board. So they're still working on that. There's some assembly bills that look at home hardening as a way of getting qualification for insurance policies. So either existing home hardening that you've done that you can prove to your insurance company, or future home hardening that you can prove that you're going to be doing. Things like that are being discussed. Stuff for fire-wise communities may have better abilities to become qualified for home insurance, high fire risk areas. The Governor's Forest Task Force has, it hasn't made it to the agenda, but they've requested a point of contact from a county person or CAO. We got to hear about zero emissions program for getting zero emissions charging stations in. For some reason, Trinity County was not on the list of counties that are able to receive compensation for installation. So I reached out to the zero emissions department at the governor's office to see why we were excluded from that list and if we can be added to it. Waiting to hear back from them. With the Golden State Natural Resource, Golden State Finance, we got an update on the wood pellet program and where it's at. There's interested buyers from Japan that want to sign this 20-year contract to purchase all of the wood pellets that would be generated from the RCRC region. They have the 20-year stewardship, it's Region 5. So we got a little bit of a lowdown on where they're at with their feasibility studies, and that's pretty interesting. If anyone is interested in hearing more about this wood pellet project, feel free to reach out to me. Definitely there's the ability to, the timber companies will be affected, or will have the ability to be involved, I should say. So I think it's a valuable opportunity for us to keep an eye on. The Fairgrounds Funds, which is Assembly Bill 1499, I believe there's $18 million from the state waiting to be dispersed to Fairgrounds that can be used to increase or supply broadband access for emergency and community uses. So I'm not sure if the Fairgrounds in Hayfork is listed as a community center, official emergency community center. If it is, there'd be eligibility to receive funds for establishing broadband at the fairgrounds there. And the NEPA guidelines with categorical exemptions, there's a draft of what that would look like, and so our CRC has been supportive of the exemptions. That's about it.
That's good. It would be wonderful if we could get some type of presentation on the Pellet project.
Yes, actually, I talked with the economic development team there at our CRC and invited them to come up this summer when it's a little more welcoming. They can go rafting down the river and stay for a couple nights, and then hopefully include a presentation during that time, and then they can kind of get a little tour of the county, maybe of the dam, things like that.
Maybe coordinate it if there's any way possible with the collaborative, of the board and the collaborative, 2 different meetings, but just to get the most out of it. But just a suggestion, but I think it's great, thank you. And I don't know about whether or not the Trinity County Fair is an official emergency. I know that we use it a lot for, Ed, do you know?
You know, actually, I don't. It's something I'm gonna look into.
Typically,
they've been used. We've used it. I just don't know if there's like a stamp saying, so perhaps you and Ed could get a hold of Carrie Bailey would be the one. So
I'll find out.
Thank you. But that's really good because I know we need it. So.
A lot of county travel.
No, a lot of county travel.
Just NACO, and I left my notes, so I'll bring them next time.
Okay, we look forward to
And CSAC by phone, they are taking a very strong lead on the COVID-19 with all counties and are engaged very much with the governor's office and all departments in between as this thing keeps evolving. So also, just so you know, my constituents have really reached out to me on an home insurance issue. So Chair, I would hope to bring a letter from the board for next meeting on this silly insurance problem that a lot of our constituents are facing. That is a very complicated issue but causing a lot of problems for not just folks in my district, but actually folks from the Car Fire, folks within Trinity County, and I hope to be working with my colleague from Shasta County as they run into the same thing. So we will look to probably bring a joint letter to both our boards.
Did RCRC have a letter, maybe it was 2 months ago, on the insurance mandating a freeze on?
Like the letter that they submitted to.
Yeah, you might want to.
I know our CRC and CSAC, they're all intertwined.
Yeah, there might be one out there that we could.
Yeah, I've been looking into it.
Jeremy,
Now's the time.
okay. Jeremy, there's a bill to do away with second home deduction for insurance. Did that come up in RCRC?
Do you happen to recall what bill number it is?
I don't. I'll get to you.
Give me a minute, I'll look through this.
I'll report out while you're looking for it. Just let me know. I'm going to report out on the Disaster Council meeting, OES, last Tuesday here. We had a great turnout, and there was a lot of people in, of course, the most occupied air in the room was the COVID, and so a lot of good information. And I just want to say thank you to Ed. You're doing a great job, and Amanda too. And it was not only informative, it just seems like specifically that day there were a lot of connections made and follow-ups with home visitations and different things. So a lot of initiative taken, so I wanted to say that. And then on Thursday over the phone, NorCal EMS, and again, a lot of protocols being established for our emergency responders and our first responders and going forward. And we're really fortunate that Sean Farouk is heading a lot of that up, and he has a vested interest in Trinity County. So we're really fortunate that we have that. A lot of our local meetings, committees have been suspended because of the COVID, CAP, NAP, there was a CAP, I think 4 meetings that I had that didn't happen. You want to go ahead and report out on it? If you have it?
I'm not sure.
So a lot of changes are being looked into, and perhaps a lot of conference calls going forward, and it is a very liquid situation, so I appreciate everybody's endurance. I think we're in for a marathon, not a sprint, and so don't burn yourself out. Take good care of yourself. Get plenty of rest if you can. So moving on to report from ad hoc committees of federal lands legislation.
I have nothing new. Jeremy's.
There's nothing new. Huffman's office have reached out to me to write a letter of support as an elected official. They've since found another supervisor in a different county to do that. I wasn't comfortable doing that, given some of the issues that I've been hearing about in the last few months. So I declined to participate in that letter of support. Other than that, that is the only thing.
Hopefully we will have something at the next meeting to put this to bed one way or the other. I anticipate.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Thank you. Thank you for your time on those projects. So, why don't we take a yes 10-minute break? So, go ahead.
Can I interrupt for a second? If you're going to take a break, could you put a definite time for restarting so that people who are watching can know to come back if they want or what? There's 24 people watching this video right now.
11:12.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, meeting to continue. We already read the county matters earlier this morning. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed in alphabetic order by department. A member of the board or staff may request that an item be heard out of order, which we pulled item 5.4 and had an update. And I appreciate everybody's flexibility in this. So we're going back to the top, 5.1, and working our way down to 5.5. Does supervisors have anything that they would like to see in a different order? No? Okay, anybody on staff need to be out? Okay, so we're just going to jump in right at the top, 5.1. Adopt a resolution which deems any premeditated, willful, and wanton slaying of Bigfoot a misdemeanor punishable by fine and/or imprisonment in Trinity County Jail. No fiscal impact. Any questions or comments?
Why?
Why?
Why is this on the agenda?
So, throughout Trinity County, we have enthusiasm regarding the Bigfoot and our neighboring counties as well. We have the Bigfoot Trail, we have Bigfoot barbecue days, we have Bigfoot who is sometimes in our legendary, mythical, and costume, who appears. And so to help facilitate the well-being of this creature, we don't want anybody out there hunting or shooting Bigfoot.
Obviously, Keith is not a believer.
Well, it's not only that, it's that I've received quite a few emails. A lot of them have words that I understand very well that I'm not repeating here, wanting to know why and why is the board doing this and what the heck's going on with all of this. And so, you know, great, I got beat up. Did you? Not that it bothers me at all.
No.
My constituents and I use these same words over and over and constantly with each other. But the nicest one was just why, as Keith said. But whatever.
So there have been other counties and other states that have done this, and not only to safeguard, but moving forward, there is a group of cohorts that have started meeting and have plans to include our schools throughout the county to help them, to help the different grades be creative. Perhaps even in a year or so, having a competition with the kids. It is part of our local history, if you want to call it. It brings in tourism. The visitor center as well as the chamber get calls. People, we are looking for additional ways to help increase our tourism. And if somebody's running around in a costume, we just want to make sure that safety is first and foremost. And there are plans by individuals within this group to do additional tourism for the county, including and incorporating Bigfoot into that.
I get it, but my constituents just...
Okay. Yours is another, his another. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Who's first?
No,
Well,
I was clearing hers off and putting yours
Gotcha.
on.
You didn't think this was going to happen, did you?
No, I think it's great.
Well, I guess it's a little out of context, because it's not, there's no discussion about a formal event. I understand there is a lot of interest in this lore. We have the Bigfoot Museum in Willow Creek, in fact, and we have the Bigfoot Trail. So there is certainly a lot of interest. I don't know of any situation where somebody felt in fear of their life if they were running around in a costume and felt like they were going to get shot.
Well, unfortunately, there's a program called Killing Bigfoot that's very popular, a show.
Okay, but do you think that is driving people to come here and how many people do we have walking around in the woods on this in costume?
Oh, I have no idea.
I hope during bear season, none.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's the point here. So, I mean, I think it's out of context from when I saw it on the agenda that I was like, what's going on? I did see your map on the Bigfoot Trail. If we want to talk about tourism, we should probably have another agenda item about outdoor rec tourism just on that sector, and this could maybe be incorporated in terms of whatever that group develops and have them speak to us before we know exactly really what they're going to do on this type of an event, because this is kind of out of context for me. So I was going, what's going on?
Okay. There you go.
Well, I think this is a great, fun opportunity, a small step we can take to help the local youth become a little more involved and excited. Imagination's an important thing, whether it's lore, truth, or whatever. What an easy, simple step we can take to give a little recognition. And as Bobby said, we aren't the first to do this. Other counties and other states have done this. The Willow Creek community is a very avid Bigfoot community. I've had many employees when I had my business there that were Bigfoot. They had seen Bigfoot and 100% convinced that they had seen that. So I think it's a great opportunity and a fun, creative way to be reminded of all the other fun things in life that are out there. And, that's about all.
Okay. I have a question. So is there a group that's having an event this summer that this ties into?
We actually, there is a Bigfoot event in May. It's hard to know with the COVID what's going to happen and what's not. And So some of the plans that were being made are on hold.
Sure.
But this had already gone, and so, yeah,
Will they come and do a presentation?
I'm sure that that's in the works,
Okay.
so.
It would be probably pretty easy to get our main Humboldt County Bigfoot guy. He's on the Bigfoot show, the Discovery show for Bigfoot. He would probably happily come and do a presentation. They go to the Bigfoot Days Festival and they tour around. But yeah, the show on Discovery Channel with the main people's Humboldt County resident, and he would be very happy to hear about this.
That's all for,
Okay, so I'm opening it up to the public.
Jeff Morris, Weaverville, like many others, so surprised to see this on the agenda. I'm actually here representing the Bigfoot Trail Alliance. I'm on the board of that organization. To be clear, our organization, the Bigfoot Trail, is a 360-mile trail that is designed around other trails that goes from southern Mendocino all the way through Trinity County, through Siskiyou, up into Oregon and out to Del Norte. And our focus is not Bigfoot. It is a great marketing tool. The name is more attractive than the conifer biodiversity trail, which is actually what the trail focuses on, is this Klamath Mountains having the second highest level of conifer biodiversity in the world. That being said, I don't think that we are necessarily interested in endorsing new regulations or ordinances that are likely never going to be enforced, but interesting nonetheless. And I saw it on the agenda and wanted to clarify what our mission is. That it's not Bigfoot specific, it's more about conifer biodiversity. That being said, we do have a number of enthusiasts who have hiked the trail because of the name and not necessarily because of the science focus. So we are interested in having that kind of promotional conversation, but again, up to the board on the rest of the decision making.
When they hike, do they wear a dangerous costume?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
John Brower from Junction City. In a word, hilarious. I think this is super funny, and April Fool's is coming up soon. Shame it couldn't have been on that day. But the Bigfoot Days in Willow Creek rocks. I mean, it brings in thousands of people to participate in that, and I think it would behoove one of the event organizers in Weaverville or somewhere on the 299 corridor to do something Squatch related, like the Friday before the weekend Bigfoot Days in Willow Creek, and try and catch people on their way and get them to stop and spend a little money or have some fun. Thanks.
Wes Scribner with Trinity Trail Alliance. I was a little surprised to see this on the agenda, and I asked a couple questions, but I'm interested in it. Our group, Trinity Trail Alliance, works pretty closely with Reading Trail Alliance, and Healthy Shasta's does a Mayor's Mountain Bike Challenge every year. Just this year, they coined it, or they rebranded to the Bigfoot Challenge. And so it was just about a month ago we had these discussions, and our event that we host up here, because we're a part of that as well, is the largest attended event of all of Shasta County and Trinity County. Last year we had 40 riders that came up for our May event, and we anticipate more this year. So to knock it out of the park, we had that discussion about doing a Bigfoot sighting because we have access to a suit, and that concern of safety came up, and we went pretty deep in the discussion. Now, the passing of this resolution, I don't think will technically protect any of our people. And I imagine if we do get shot, it'll probably be more of a homicide, hopefully, than a $1,000 fine and a year in jail. But I can definitely assure you that if this does pass, I'll be passing this on to Reading Trail Alliance, and I'm sure that they will probably be extremely excited to see something like that pop up here. I think it is
as kind of an enjoyable nod to, our local culture out there a little bit. Don't necessarily see the harm in it, especially if there's no fiscal impact to the county. But I could almost see this kind of taking off and running a little bit, with some of the other local agencies as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any additional comment from the public? Seeing none, we bring it back to the board. The board's pleasure. Oh, the phone. Thank you, Tina. Anybody on the phone want to weigh in? Hearing none, we're going to move it back to the board for reals.
Motion to approve 5.1 is presented.
I'll second that.
We have discussion still?
Sure. Yeah.
And I understand there's an opportunity to leverage the whole Bigfoot interest in the region. I'm not sure this is the way to do it. Forgot to ask the sheriff his thought, since we're talking about a $1,000 fine and imprisonment and misdemeanor, but that's okay. So, again, I think this is from my old marketing days, could be a great publicity deal, but I'm not sure this is the way to do it. And maybe we should rethink our approach to tap into the interest of the Bigfoot in the region for either the bike race or the museum or the big event that happens in Creek. So that's all I have to say.
I will be voting to leave this up to the board at your discretion, so whenever.
Go ahead.
Well, hilarious, I guess, could be one term, but I actually find the resolution insulting. If you wanted to say don't feed peanuts to the Sasquatch, that's fine, but to actually say, in the absence of specific laws covering the taking of species, which that's not true. You can't just go out and shoot any species you want. Encourages laxity in the use of firearms and other deadly devices and poses a clear and present threat to the safety and well-being of persons living or traveling within the boundary of Trinity County. I just think that's insulting to anybody that hunts, anybody that's out in the woods with a gun. I'm not sure if we're trying to be funny or if we're trying to be serious or what we're trying to do here. But it's just, we have spent more time on this than we should.
Not to nitpick the wording of it, and maybe that needs to happen in order for a novel thing like this to occur. If that's the case, I'd be supportive of the wording being adjusted so there'd be more support of it. Otherwise, I would be curious how Sheriff Saxon feels about this. If this is something he's not comfortable with, I would value his opinion. Not put you on the spot, no problem. That's about all I think of sharing.
So part of this idea is, it is marketing. I think that incorporating the ideas that have come forward with the idea of public safety, there have been campers that come here and get afraid because they think there is a Bigfoot, whether it is or not, or a bear or whatever. And but the idea was also, besides marketing, is to encourage, like Mr. Morris said earlier, the idea of people going out on the Bigfoot Trail and exploring, especially those within our own county, not just outsiders, but it is unique in some ways to Trinity County, that we have the activities that we do. Like I said, I don't know if the activity for the Bigfoot barbecue is going to happen or not because of the coronavirus. There is been decades and generations of people that this means something to in Trinity County. The Native American people have also weighed in on this, and it is something that is spiritually meaningful for them. And so the idea to encourage the protection of that it wasn't done lightly. That was done specific. So, we celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I've never seen a leprechaun, but I know it makes my brother very, very happy to believe in him. So, yeah. So.
I mean, I would say if you want to take advantage of the activity that's going regionally, maybe a better approach would be bringing back a resolution just in support of these activities as interest for the public and tourism that were involved. I just think this is a little too narrow of approach, so.
We actually have a first and a second. Go ahead, Sheriff Saxon.
If I'm out of order, let me know.
We're out of order, but
And-
it's an out of order day. The whole thing's out of order.
Blame the virus.
Since I was asked to make a comment, even though it's not the time to make a comment, I think it would be better served to make a proclamation rather than a resolution, only from the standpoint that we're putting a law on the books. And the law, making it a misdemeanor, I think is a little extreme for this. I think it goes beyond what the intent would be. I think it's very important to have something like this in Trinity County. I understand all the reasons behind it, but I think making a misdemeanor on the books is a little much with regard to me as a law enforcement agent. I think it would be better served to make a proclamation rather than a resolution. That's my only comment on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know, you can't amend the motion strictly to a proclamation, can you?
How different table?
So I would motion to table this and then give you ample time to put it into the disguise of a proclamation. Guys. I think that would be
I'll
a better route.
second that.
It's a subsequent motion.
I
thought it was an amended motion.
It was amending his motion. Then your second has to approve it.
Oh,
Then you
second.
have to okay, go for it.
I'll second.
Is this going to come back at another meeting a little bit wider in scope than this misdemeanor business?
Well, I will have to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just my thought, so. That's all I have, my
Go
question.
ahead.
Supervisor Chowder?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown? Supervisor Morris?
Is this to table that, is that correct?
To bring it back in, yeah.
To table this.
To table this and bring it back as a
All right,
proclamation.
I'll agree to table it.
Supervisor Groves?
No.
Supervisor Bennett?
I'll abstain. I'm ashamed to, but I'll abstain.
Pardon?
Your choice.
So, 3 yeses. Abstaining this one. So, it's tabled. Clerk of the Board, item 5.2, authorize the chairman to sign a letter supporting the Trinity Trails Alliance LaGrange Classic mountain bike race to be held June 6, 2020, and waive provision 2C of county fee waiver policy. Find that Trinity Trail Alliance LaGrange Classic Mountain Bike Race provides a public benefit and approve the application of a waiver of the county fees, waiving general services load and park rental fee in the amount of $1,380. Loud Park camping fee is an unknown amount, and solid waste dumpster fee in the amount of $214. Loss of revenue of the general services is an unknown amount, and loss of revenue to solid waste in the amount of $214.
internet, but we're here.
So is there any conversation? No? Can I open it up to the public?
Wes Scribner, still Trinity Trail Wines. I just wanted to take this opportunity to address the board again. I've been up here a couple of times to talk about it, but just to refresh. The LaGrange Classic race that we took over here 3 years ago, this will be our third event, has grown to be a real successful event, and every year it keeps getting better. The funds that we use or that we raise during that race go towards the facilities that we're building in the park. So we leverage those funds with other grant funds, local donations, and I will say a ton of local labor and equipment time to put that park in. It was the second paved pump track in all of California. It is, under new terminology, it's epic and it's fantastic, and we're extremely proud to have it here in Weaverville. It's widely attended every day at the sun shining. You guys got to drive by. Things loaded with kids and adults. It's just been a phenomenal social experience and has been fantastic. So from that effort, we've probably put close to $400,000 worth of infrastructure equity into the park, and we didn't call upon the county. We've had great support from the board and from all the county departments, and it's been fantastic. It's been a good partnership, and we just hope to continue that on here for this next year. And our group is continuing to grow, and we're looking at reaching out farther and farther, building more trails. We're trying to expand our users so that we get more hikers in the organization. We get more the running group, horse equestrian folks as well, and it's really starting to flourish. So we're excited to see the growth and excited to do it again this year, with the big asterisk out there that the possibility, see how all this COVID-19 stuff works out. But we have addressed that at our meetings, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that come June 6th that a lot of this will have passed and everybody's going to be hungry to get outside and go enjoy our county.
I just want to, thank you, Chair, just compliment you and your group for the efforts that you did with the park, with the pump track. It's amazing. I drove by the other day and it was full of kids and having a great time. And then, of course, this event promotes the county and really brings a great number of people into the county. So thank you again. It's been a lot of work on all of your parts, and you should be very grateful for what you guys have done. Thank you.
Thank you. It's absolutely worth it.
That was the end of public comment.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve 5.2 is presented with the change that removing the $214 for the solid waste dump, that that's been taken care of.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? County Administrative Office, 5.3, receive a mid-year budget review for fiscal year 2019-2020, no fiscal impact.
All right, back to business now. So thank you. I'm pleased to provide you with a mid-year review of our 1920 budget, which was adopted on October 1st, 2019, in the amount of $131,310,953. As our department has had in the past, they're continuing to keep their expenditures intact, doing a very good job with the appropriated revenues. Currently, all revenues and expenditures are on track for this year. As you remember, the board passed the MOU for salary increases for employees in skilled trades, general management, confidential and probation police officers. These have not been, were not calculated in the 1920 year, so I will be asking the board if they can authorize myself and the auditor to sign budget adjustments as they come through, as you heard from Shelley earlier, that they're inputting each classification. So as those come through, they'll have to make, the department will have to make budget adjustments. So I'm asking that we have the authority to do so. The assessor, auditor, and tax collector completed their upgrade of property tax management software and are going live with the megabyte system for the tax roll 1920 year. The big expense this year still is the jail, administration, sheriff, and Department of Transportation are working hard to keep everything on track. So far, construction's been on track, and the budget's been on track. Both the sheriff and Director Tippett have worked real close in designing and minimizing any type of looking for sort of not adjustments, but
Overruns?
that too, but contingencies. So they've kept that to a minimum. We're doing a fee study, which should be hopefully available to the board, say May. Yeah, late May, which hopefully will outline areas that the county is not charging for its services. With the failure of Measure A, we're going to be looking hard at all types of revenues and new revenues because we do have some pretty big concerns about 2021 year and that budget. So we may come back earlier than the next budget round and ask the board for some concessions and maybe some freezes on hiring. Because we're anticipating expenses in 2021 that will be much higher than we had in 19 and 20. Mandates from the state and, again, completing the jail. So with that, they have to answer any questions. We did hand out, I think everybody has this draft. We can go through concerning, we have a request just for cannabis and expenses there. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I have Susie in the audience, who is our expert, who can give the detail on the budget.
I just have a quick general comment. It doesn't seem like there were any major red flags at this year. Sorry, I'm not coughing on you guys. Except maybe the lingering extra money for the jail.
Yes.
This is the big.
Yeah, it's board approved. I think it was 1.3 to get the bond completed. We had that, and then we had about $1 million in contingency we had to put up. We're working on that. I'm confident at this point that we're going to come in under that 2.5, but we're putting that out there right now because that's what we originally asked for. And again, we made it through a fire season without fire. We thought we were through all our natural disasters, and then comes coronavirus. So that will have some impact on our budget.
Do you have, off the top of your head, any idea what is driving perhaps the extra cost on the jail? Is it labor? Is it materials? Is it? I didn't see many change orders come.
Yeah, there's no extra cost. That's the actual cost that we put in. Like I say, originally it was the 1.3 million we needed to get to our county commitment, well, to match the bid, because we had a $20 million bond and it was a 21.6 construction cost. So that's why we were 1.3 short, and then we had the contingency on top of that. So no, everything has been coming on target and on time. And Rick's been able to, I think he's on the line, Rick's been able to find some additional revenues through the sale of those credits we have. We're going to add that towards, and then we have some other contingency that we're putting on side too. So we're hoping to, my hope right now is to buy down about $1 million of that. Again, as we get to completion and the fire marshal gets involved, and sometimes they want different locks changed, or they want this changed, or we have unforeseen things. But right now we're hoping to buy that down by around $1 million, which would be, I would be extremely impressed if we could build a $25 million jail for $23 million.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Richard, I am on the phone. One of the other things was there was a lot of expenses that were required to be covered to actually build the jail facility where we are, like for instance, timing utilities, connecting the water lines that doesn't exist right now, and several other things. So that was a lot of what the extra costs were.
Those are, so you're saying those were pre-construction costs that?
Yeah, the bond itself, the $20 million, only covers the construction of the jail facility on the jail parcel. Connection of utilities, connection of road, and some other, any staff time from staff and all that is not covered by the bond and has to be covered by the county. And those are the costs that would be above the $20 million.
Is there any other questions for Rick? Thank you, Rick. Open it up for,
I have a request of the board. If it's the pleasure of the board, I would like to request at this time regarding this budget, that you look at taking the $7,000 travel budget that District 5 uses and giving that to STAR as we did last year to the commodities group. It would be the pleasure of this board.
Did you do that last year?
No.
Okay.
But travel budget, my travel budget was given to the commodities.
You're right, thank you.
And
Okay.
at this time, I'd like to request that it be given to, the 7,000 be given to STAR.
Okay.
Richard, does that have to be amended in a motion?
We'll have to probably come back with a budget transfer.
That would have
so,
to be,
yeah.
okay, so that,
Later date,
Yeah,
yes.
stick in here in your budgets will be,
okay, so that was very gracious of you.
and the board has to do it, or I can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up for public comment at this time. Is there anybody on the phone that wants to comment? So bring it back to the board on this motion. It is,
Bobby, I have a question.
Okay.
So we have a fee study coming back, which there might be some shocking numbers in there for the public. Will we have information on how short we're going to be when we make a decision on the fees? My point being that, right now we lose money in several departments, and that's just something that the board is willing to do. But if we have more information on how short we are since this tax didn't pass.
Yeah, well, yeah, the shortage will be in the 2021, and we already start projections on that right now. And I believe Susie has some of the additional costs that we have not had in the previous year, so we'll have those. And if we're assuming a flat around $10.5 million general fund again, yeah, we'll be able to tell you pretty close to what we're anticipating.
So that will have a strong information value on what we do with our fee schedule.
Exactly. Instead of coming back to the board and saying, can we 2.5% a year, you might have to go 15% on a few things. I mean, I'm just throwing numbers out right now to panic the
No, I
public.
understand.
But originally, we were hoping to titrate this in very slowly, but.
You're going to have to speak, so yeah, go ahead. Sometimes.
Yes. Whenever I start speaking, she gets nervous.
Did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Susie Hawkins, business manager for the admin office. Richard, sorry, we will have information for you on projections, but we will not have departments requested budgets back yet, so we won't have really good solid numbers on how far out we are when you bring the fee study back to you, as it's currently planned to do, because we don't typically get departmental budgets returned back to admin until the end of May, and then we start going through them, and then we bring a preliminary budget back to you by the end of June that really shows us how far out we are, and then from there we start working through that process in getting us closer and closer and closer to balancing it.
But we should have some estimates on the state OPEBs and things like that, or?
Yeah, we should have OPEB, and we could make general predictions on salaries and benefits, but we won't have good solid requested budgets from departments at that point in time.
I'm going to go to a different subject if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, to follow up to your question. So Susie, when the fees study comes back to us, regardless of the budget, even if we had money to throw around, you may see certain departments, certain fees be way out of whack in terms of what it cost us, and those would have to come up anyway.
Correct. We should be doing our fee studies more frequently than we have been. And as the cost of employees, salaries and benefits, OPEB, those kinds of things go up, as the cost of actual
Doing business.
goods, doing business, the supplies that we need to do our perform our jobs and perform those services to the public go up, we should be adjusting our fees to recoup those costs, because by definition, the fees are the fee for service, and it's supposed to be the cost that supposed to be what it costs us as a county
Right.
to provide that service. We are not allowed to make a profit.
No, I know that.
I can't
just
charge
was
more, but
wanted-
we should be looking at recouping the costs that it costs us to provide that service to the public.
I just didn't want any confusion that we build a budget off of all these increased fees, because that's just not realistic. But there are fees that do probably need to come up that would help.
And to clarify my answer, keep that, Susie's correct, we won't have each department, but doing this long enough, we know we don't have enough to fund every department 100% anyhow. We're always oversubscribed, but we will have a good idea of our revenues when we bring this back, and which means we know that we're going to be oversubscribed when the departments turn their budgets in, and then that's where we spend the next 6 weeks working that down. But we'll be able to take the history of the revenues we have and the projected increases that are mandated that we're not doing this year, and that's what I'm getting at. Now, we won't have the budget departments, because obviously the sheriff's department anticipated going up because of the jail and things like that. But just staying at a level playing field, we'll be able to let you know that there's increases that are coming beyond what the requests of the budgets are.
As always, yeah.
But yeah, I do on this, and then I have another whole subject to go to. We choose sometimes to give incentive on certain permits or licensing, so people comply with those by actually the county having a loss and taking that out of general fund. So I think it's important that we have some idea when we're deciding that we're not undercharge for public benefit, that we have an idea how short we are going to be out of general funds. Okay, with that, I asked Susie to be fully prepared to talk about the cannabis program today, and Richard, cutting out. She gave us some pie charts on that. We've been requested time and time again to talk more about how the cannabis department goes. Again, we've got no questions, but I'm just going to ask us to go over this, so maybe people at a later date can view how the cannabis department works. Susie has brought up some 18-19 actuals. Correct, your actuals?
There are actually.
Yeah, right. Because the 1920s seem to be on target, but there are issues that have not. For example, the sheriff's department hasn't billed yet for reasons that Susie will explain. But I'd just like you to go over in the pie charts and then give us a quick explanation of what, when you say interfund expenditures, what that means and where it goes.
So I'm prepared to give you kind of a basic overview, a basic detailed overview of these expenditures, but I've also asked that Kim and Lisa here, who do the day-to-day accounting on the cannabis side, be prepared to do the more in-depth questions if you want.
Thank you.
So the first pie chart is the total expenses by income code for 1819, and that basically breaks down the different type of expenditures within a department by categories that are set by the Secretary of State's office. Or I'm sorry, the State Controller's office. And those are salaries and benefits, services and supplies, interfund expenses, and then refunds or overpayments and transfers out. Interfund expenses are the expenses that we pay to ourselves. So cannabis pay, and by ourselves I mean pay to another county department. So for example, cannabis funds code enforcement officers out of, in 1819 it was directly out of the sheriff's office budget, Department 2200. Those payments hit cannabis's interfund expense and then are an interfund revenue to the sheriff to offset those expenditures. Another example is county council services. Those are an interfund expense to our county council budget, which then our county council budget pays our contracted county council. So it just kind of shows how it moves within the county structure. Any questions specifically?
So the salary and benefits, so that would be like the planning department?
No, the salaries and benefits would be the people working directly in the cannabis department, which I'm gonna speak, but I'm gonna look to Lisa to correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Is
But
our,
that's what I meant, the cannabis people within.
within the cannabis department,
So,
division, yes. So there's our
everything
code
but-
compliance specialists, their administrative staff at the front, some of the director's time, oh my God, that's it.
So are there any of the staff that,
To be clear, are there percentages given to other staff members that are?
That was gonna be
I
my
know, that's
question.
why I lit the light up and was trying to drag
oh,
you. This might reflect part of director's salary. 2% might go to director's salary out of this fund.
For the director, yes.
Yes, okay, because people
but-
will look at this and say, wow, this is terrific, but there's still money going other places, and it's a big secret. Because they don't look at it the way you do, or in the specific narrow places you do.
Well, as she goes through, each graph breaks down each section, and
But they need to understand that.
So, yes, salaries and benefits does include some of the director's time, but it does not include other staff time from other county departments.
Right, because
It's
that would be illegal.
Well,
No.
not if they were working directly in that
Directly for it,
department.
but if they're not working for the department, it's.
We account for that in the interfund expense. So if, for example, Lisa, who works for Department of Transportation, provides fiscal support to the
Right.
cannabis department, she bills for that time, and then that is an expense through the interfund expense, not a salaries and benefits, because they don't say Lisa works 10% of her time in cannabis. She does a direct billing. Versus the director is split out, I believe we did 45%. 45% of her time is covered by the cannabis budget because she spends at least 45% of her time working in cannabis.
And people need to figure that out or understand how we do business, instead of just,
Ask questions.
they don't, come here. They don't. They just make assumptions and thrash everybody.
Yes, and that is Kim Hunter, Building and Planning Director. I did want to, yes, there are, even in the Planning Department, in the Building Department, Environmental Health Department, the Cannabis Program, there's time spent on that reviewing files. So that, again, it can be billed to the cannabis budget, and is.
Those were some of the other departments that could be
Right.
used as an example. Those are interfund expenses.
So services and supplies, some examples of those?
Office paper, printers if they're needed,
Would that be auto? No.
that would be fixed assets. Or in this instance, it's the transfer out because the vehicle was purchased in the motor pool department. So we transfer the purchase to the motor pool, and then the motor pool, it has the fixed asset expense.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well,
Did
did she answer your question?
Well, I mean, that's,
It also includes, all of the motor pool expense, which goes into services and supplies, which is large.
The truck
okay.
for it. So the initial purchase of the vehicle was the transfer out to motor pool, but
I
then
see.
they
So the
bill
mileage.
they bill us
Mileage,
monthly
okay.
for mileage and for having the vehicle, and that goes to
Services and supplies, okay. And the building?
Building rent, services and
Services
supplies.
and supplies, okay. You can stay close.
The building rent might be an interfund. Is it under 2390,
No, it's,
2299? One of the 99 ones, or is it?
The building rent wouldn't, that generally be through A87, which doesn't get charged to cannabis direct.
We'll have to look at it up a little bit closer and get back to you.
All right. Quick question, and I think you said this earlier, Susie,
amount that is allocated to the sheriff department isn't swept into their budget, it's billed back and paid back to that sheriff's department.
Correct, in 1819, yeah.
Yeah.
It's billed directly back from the 2200 department number, which is our
So they
sheriff's
submit
office.
an invoice to their expenses to the cannabis program.
In 1819, yeah. In 1920, we have broken them out, and as you saw in our budget development and budget adoption, code enforcement moved into its own
That's right.
department number, which is 2205, so to more clearly and transparently track those expenses that are directly related to cannabis code enforcement. And the departments are working on an MOU that I believe it's quarterly, will reimburse whatever the actuals are that have hit 2205 from cannabis to the code enforcement budget.
Got it?
Yep.
Spreading this out, this is terrific. It makes a lot of sense, and I hope some people are able to take a look at this 1 year, next year, and how it works out. Keith, this is great.
They did all the work.
Yeah, I understand that, but you requested, I don't know if we need here during this
Well,
time, but it's great. Thank you. This explains it. The projection is pretty outrageous.
So I do have a question.
Salaries and benefits are sneaking up there.
Well, I'll wait.
yeah, some of our questions are being answered in later
Yeah.
things, so maybe we should just let her go through.
Okay. The next one takes the services and supplies and the interfund expense income code from your first pie chart and breaks them down into more, into groupings to kind of explain a little bit more on what hits those income codes. And so you have your professional and specialized services, which is where we pay any kind of contractors or consultants or whatnot. So in cannabis, it's SHN and Ascent are the two big ones that hit there. Again, we have a large portion of that is interfund professional, which is that support that we get from other departments, environmental health, building, DOT,
And
sheriff's office, county council.
I have an expense question. Maybe this is for Kim. SHN is probably, we brought them in to help offset some planning work that was needed in the cannabis division. I think the thought was that there'd be a senior planner in that would help bring those costs down because SHN certainly increases costs to the cannabis division because we just don't have enough staff. And business, or the planning department's been trying to recruit for a senior planner for at least 2 years, I think. So my sense is that's throwing your budget a little bit off because we still have to use them. My sense is you're recruiting for both positions, senior and another senior planner and another planner that can do planning work?
We are recruiting for a deputy director. We are not recruiting for a planner in planning. That is the senior planner, and that's over in cannabis. We're not currently recruiting for that position. That's because they're looking at potential reorganization, and so we don't want to fill that position and then get caught in a reorganization. So we're holding back on that a little bit.
Gotcha.
But yes, you're entirely correct. The SHN, we're depending on them for processing the CUPs, conditional use permits. There are type 3 licenses are 1 acre grows, and they offer additional staff support. But mainly they're focusing on the CUPs right now. Out of our 8.5 allocated positions, we only have 2.5 on board right now.
All right, I just wanted to make sure folks realize that some of this extra cost is because we're still having to use them versus in-house.
from a staffing standpoint.
Yes, and just one other thing to briefly note is that without a senior planner to kind of vet the applications and work in our department to pass along the best information to the consultant, it is a higher cost as the consultant is going through the application saying we need more information. So that is also an increased cost because even with the consultant, you need to pass them the information and keep that process moving. So, yeah, that is another issue as well.
Good point, thank you. I just wanted to remind folks on that.
And then the third pie chart takes that interfund, interfund expenses, that large 72%, and that breaks it down and tells us what county departments are seeing that percentage of the funding coming
I
back.
see what you're saying.
What departments are providing the services to cannabis and then receiving reimbursement for them. And as you can see, the largest departments are the sheriff for code enforcement, and then county council for the legal support and litigations. So this is probably not your question, but the county council and the sheriffs, the majority of the county council would be for enforcement, and then there would be some that would be paid out to work on other issues. Yeah, yes. So roughly half of that budget in the interfund there is going for enforcement. And then like DOT and administration and the board, that would be more of a support of the planning,
Yes,
cannabis planning.
and the board, in the 18-19, the board's time was actually a catch-up of my billing to the cannabis department for specifically yours and Judy's time spent in actually developing the cultivation ordinances and the distribution, the commercial program ordinances, because that was more staff work than board level work. So we don't get to bill them for your board level work, right? Discussing this here and whatnot, but we did get to bill them for your time in directly
That's when we were acting as staff.
attempting to create the program, yeah.
And I would point out that this county council number, as Keith pointed out, is from the code enforcement processing, and we did not, when they, I say they, the firm Margaret worked with us on developing all those ordinances, that was not extra cost. They did it under their current contract and did not receive extra payment on that.
They did not receive extra payment, but we did bill cannabis directly for that time.
Oh, for that portion,
For that
sure.
portion of their
Yeah.
time based on the calculated hourly rate
Right.
based on their retainer amount.
But it
Because
wasn't
that was
extra.
correct. It was work that was done under their retainer.
Yeah.
But then was billed out because cannabis is not, because it's not federally legal, we can't bill through it, through our cost plan, which is why you see the larger interfund expense. Because typically, for other departments, you bill our time through the cost plan. Anytime administration does, it's billed through the cost plan. Anytime HR does, or you see some time in there for the treasurer, doing deposits, collecting money, that typically would get billed through the cost plan. But because cannabis is a disallowed expense through the cost plan, we have to do direct billings in order to recoup the actual costs.
Yeah, that's me. And when county council goes to court, that isn't what Judy was necessarily talking about. That is a different expense completely, correct?
Correct. We are
Just
billed,
wanted to make that clear.
pursuant to our contract with county council,
Right.
any litigation is billed outside of, above and beyond our retainer amount, and we're billed at an hourly rate.
Perfect. It's covered that way.
All right, and then the next three just basically do the same thing for you, the same breakdown. They just take 1920's budget as opposed to 1819 actual. And as Keith mentioned, in a perfect world, I would have presented 1920 actuals at mid-year to you for review.
But because of delays in billings and whatnot, they weren't presenting an accurate or a clear picture of the true expenditures for the department, so I didn't want to cause confusion there when they showed this way at mid-year, and then in a couple months they're trued up and actually showing what they should have been.
But I think to note to in the 18-19 actuals, we were at 2.2 million and we budgeted 3 million. I believe if my recollection's somewhat correct, in 18-19 we budgeted around 2.5 million and we came in under.
I believe that.
It's within,
Yeah,
the actuals came in under what we budgeted
Yeah.
in a reasonable amount.
and given Kim's comment about staffing being
Right.
low, I would anticipate that 1920 actuals are gonna come in under budget as well, because we build our budgets based on what we hope to be able to do for the program throughout the year, and then life happens and people leave, or we don't get the number of recruitment,
Salary
or
savings.
salary, so we're not able to fill positions, or,
So for the rest of the board, at this, we were deficit, at the $3 million, we were deficit spending approximately $500,000.
I believe it was 900,000.
Was it 900?
That, yeah, that's like that.
But it is short up, right? It's come back online. And then the other thing I wanted to ask in terms of revenues. Let's see if I have this real, if I remember this correctly. I think in 18, in the first half of the year, billings were all coming in at once. And what I mean by billings, I mean permits. And people coming in right in the beginning of the year, late in December, paying for their permits, which was really giving quite a surge of revenue in the beginning of the year, calendar year. I think in 18, we sparsed that out in terms of the renewal date. Staff was having a hard time really getting those permits issued right in that really couple of months versus processing it when that renewal date was up. So that shifts your revenue.
Yeah, I would say in looking at the revenue over the last couple of years, that
You're seeing
would
that.
track with that,
Uh-huh.
because in 17-18, at mid-year, we had received $2.5 million.
Yeah.
In 18-19, we'd only received 1.5 million at mid-year, and this year at mid-year, we've only received $500,000.
Right.
So changing that renewal date and that time frame changes when the revenues come in.
Right, and so
When they hit.
that does shift your budget.
And then Keith, to go back to your question, for 1920 budget, we were budgeting a $977,000
Okay,
deficit.
906, all right, thank you for refreshing my memory, which left us with about $500,000 surplus.
Yes.
Now, of course, with the cost savings, which also could mean understaffed, that number
More than
have.
likely will result in a higher cash balance at the end of the fiscal year, yes.
But since we're behind on the revenues, we don't have a good, clear picture, except that we seem to be on budget.
I'm gonna defer to probably Kim on that one.
I'm going to defer to Lisa.
As it rolls downhill, these.
Poor Lisa.
Yes, we are currently on.
So we're on budget, all right. All right, that's it for my questions.
Me too.
Cool, thank you.
Ladies, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Keith.
putting this together. And next time we get this question of we don't know where the money goes, I will refer them to this.
Good luck. But I'll back you up.
Thank you, John. Got my 6, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we're not just receiving the report, we're also authorizing CAO and auditor to sign the budget, just as a reminder, because it was a while ago when we read this. And
Yes, that's what we're asking, that authorize. They don't know they're on speaker.
you're on speakerphone on the phone, so just so when making a motion, if you're referring it back as recommended, realize that that's in there, that's all. Just a reminder, because it's been a while.
Yeah, there's no motion needed on the budget itself, it's just asking the board for authorization for myself and auditor to sign the budget adjustments, yeah.
Under this item.
Under this
Under
item,
this
yeah.
item, yeah, we'll
So
so
moved.
Related to
I'll
the
second.
salaries.
for the salaries, increases given for cost and cost, long-term negotiation. But before we launch your motion, Madam Chair, you might want to.
I did,
Oh, we did?
yes, and the phone as well, I did.
Prior to this.
Okay, I didn't,
Prior to
I
this.
didn't hear you ask for public comment. I apologize.
Okay, well, I remember, but that's fine, we can open it up for public comment. There is a motion on the floor, so can you withdraw it, please? I'll withdraw a second.
Yeah, it was prior to this presentation, so. it's
Yeah.
right, so.
It was,
Correct.
they were asked, but there might be new questions.
John Barrett from Junction City. Thank you, Susie. This is awesome. I have a question. Where would the TAA, the cost of county council managing the case and the settlement fee, where would that fit into this?
So you have to direct your question to the board just as etiquette. So, and then if there's a supervisor on the board that would like to follow up on your behalf, then it's up to them. But it's up to the board to take your questions when there is a presentation. So is there?
The two questions that I think would be nice if supervisors could help clarify would be the budgeting for the TAA case and the payout on the settlement. And also, I understand we have different vehicles in use. Some are sheriff's code enforcement vehicles. Some are cannabis department inspection vehicles. I'm curious if they're broken into separate areas of the budget or where they're covered in here. But overall, I really like this. It's timely. It seems to be easy to understand, and I think it's a big step forward. Thank you.
I would be interested in this.
I believe the TAA has been asked and answered many times.
So are you comfortable in answering this, or would you like to defer it to county council?
Answer.
Okay, thank you, please.
To answer the first question, the TAA, if you look at the 1920 budget numbers, the settlement payment, it would be paid out of the refund and overpayments, little section of the income code. I didn't break that down into another pie chart, small little section. And then county council's time spent on that litigation would be found in the interfund expenses that were paid to county council.
The second question was on the.
And then on the vehicles, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, the ones that are assigned to the code enforcement officers are billed directly to the code enforcement budget through via motor pool, and then hit the interfund expense budget when we pay the code enforcement budget back. The ones that are assigned directly to the code compliance guys that are out doing the compliance checks hit the services and supplies budget.
And that is shared by other departments as well. It's not just the sole burden of the cannabis department.
Those vehicles, no, those vehicles are assigned directly to those employees in the cannabis department who only do cannabis work. So that would be a sole expense of the cannabis department.
Okay. Is there any more questions? Bringing it, no more questions from the public. Nobody on the phone? Okay, now I entertain.
All right, so moved.
That's second.
All those in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you very much, Susie. Lisa, Kim.
And Lisa, Kim, yes, thank you.
And
Thank
Richard.
you, Lisa, and.
You can run out the door too.
Second, wait, another question.
I'm 5-5, yeah. Should we, Human Resources 5.5, authorize the Human Resources Director to transfer 19 years applicable to longevity from prior employees to Trinity County for the Deputy Director of Planning, candidate number 00230, and pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 2.60.410A, authorizing the Director of Building and Planning to hire a Deputy Director of Planning at range M252, Step G, effective March 17, 2020. Approximate costs and salary and benefits per month for a Deputy Director of Planning at A Step is $10,125, and at G Step is $13,249.
Thank you. So the county recently recruited and interviewed to fill the vacancy of Deputy Director of Planning. The applicant that presented as the best candidate for the position would bring to the department and the county the greatest benefit in terms of experience and basically in reviewing and processing development applications, preparing reports, legal notices, CEQA, documents, experience in presentations for the Planning Commission, as well as project coordination between the building, planning, and environmental health divisions. So this candidate has over 20 years of planning service, 16 years with another Northern California County Planning Division, and 12 and a half of those 16 years are actually in supervisory or management roles. And then pursuant to the code, it's providing authority to Human Resources Director, to myself, to hire above A Step and transfer candidates 20 years of applicable longevity from his prior government employers over to Trinity County so we could offer it at Step G, which is a longevity step, range M252. The salary range and the step would certainly commensurate with the candidates' training and their experience, which far exceeds the position's minimum requirements.
Any questions?
Yeah, but this is a good sign.
Yes. Open it up to public. And
John Bauer from Junction City. I encourage approval of this position at G-Step.
anybody on the phone? Okay, bring it back to board.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Before we adjourn, we have the addendum item. Move to discuss and or take action to consider an interim personnel policy regarding COVID-19 and find that the need to take immediate action came to the attention of the board subsequent to an agenda being posted. The urgency is that COVID-19 is a current pandemic and Human Resources needs an approved policy prior to the next board meeting.
So Trinity County is of course committed, oh sorry,
Madam Chair, the agenda language is below the line on the subsequent paper that
Adopt a
you're
resolution.
Thank you. Yeah.
Adopt a resolution establishing an interim personnel policy regarding COVID-19 coronavirus. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. So Trinity County is committed to maintaining a safe workplace and ensure continuity of business operations during this pandemic related to COVID-19, or also known as coronavirus. We've had a national emergency declared as well as a statewide emergency and recent a local emergency in order to protect employees and prevent the spread to those employees at greatest risk for severe illness. An interim personnel policy has been established and is detailed on this resolution. It is my recommendation to adopt the resolution as presented. You want me to read through the resolution?
I don't think it's necessary.
We could just take that.
Yeah, I think we just had a minute to read it ourselves real quick. Any questions for Shelley? Any public comment? Any public comment on the phone? Bringing it back to the board.
So moved.
I heard two guys saying
I
time.
only heard Jeremy's.
That's right. Chair, you're the big boss here. You get it.
Vice Chair. There we go. All those in favor? Oh, it is a resolution, thank you.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Benson?
Aye.
Supervisor Chadwick?
Thank you, good work too. Good. Okay, we're gonna adjourn 12:25. Thank you, everyone.
Shelley, clarify that included staff with school closures.
Jeremy, do you have the collaborative?